Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast, this time presented by DraftKings. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined as always by Cody Saftic. Really happy to have DraftKings aboard, official sponsor of the show. Me and Pat have been working with them for, about 4 years now, and what they really let you do is they kind of just let you do your own thing. We'll be talking about DraftKings, we'll be talking about, and all of the odds that we have are on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Odds and lines are subject to change. See website for actual odds. If you or anybody you know have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER for help. All of that good stuff. But it is really exciting. They let you be yourself. They let you do your own thing. And couldn't be happier to have them aboard as a sponsor. How you doing, Cody?
Geez, yeah, you and Pat have been with DraftKings for a while, but little Cody's official. What's that, Paul? Cody's with DraftKings now too. Is that the NWO theme? Yeah, game just got changed, Paul. Game just got changed. So, I'm happy to be aboard with the super group. I mean, how could you not like DraftKings? First of all, they've come in here as far as fantasy MMA gone, changed the game. And as far as the sportsbook go, they are quickly progressing huge. I mean, this is a sportsbook only been officially launched outside of that beta for a little over a year now, and you can just see that already their lines are getting much better, a lot more fanfare coming their way. They've got the fantasy side of things, but they're just opening up right across the board. Here in Canada, specifically in Ontario, we just got single event wagering just got legalized. So instead of having to go online of everything. And again, DraftKings is one of the lobbyists, one of the forefront runners on that too. So yeah, it just makes a whole lot of sense that if we want to keep the show going and take it to the next level, that you want to partner up with the best in the game. So I want to be tagged up with Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So we've got a mega card coming at you, Conor McGregor. This is one of the reasons a lot of us cappers do it, is these big cards. The UFC runs events every week, and we watch the events every week. But it's hard to explain to your aunt and uncle that you're actually doing something with your life. It's like, what are you doing? I'm watching the fights this weekend, sure. But when it's Conor, when it was Ronda, before Jones kind of spiraled his things out of control, those are the names that even the casual was interested in. And I see a little bit of diminished return on Conor with this losing streak. So he's got a lot to prove. Dustin Poirier, one of the best all time, one of the best, most action fighter lightweights of the roster in recent memory. Like, how could you not like this fight? How could you not like this card? So everything's coming together, Paul.
And, so like usually, like if you need your car work done, you call a technician. If you need lawn care done, you call your gardener or your landscaper. When I need a read done, I call Pat Mayo, and he's got a great offer from DraftKings to tell you about.
McGregor versus Poirier 3 is all set up for UFC 264, and DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC, has a knockout offer for this weekend's fight. DraftKings is offering 264 to 1 odds on a knockout in the first round. Paul, what are you doing? You're making weird. What are you doing? You're doing the sign language at the screen. What are we doing here?
I went 264 to 1.
You're killing me. Anyway, you get 264 to 1 odds on a knockout in the first round during Sunday's main event. If the rubber match ends in a first round knockout, you're going to walk away with some cash. Just pick the main event fighter you think is going to win by first round knockout, and DraftKings Sportsbook will give you 264 to 1 odds on that fighter. That's right, bet $1 on McGregor or Poirier to win by first round knockout, and you win $264. No better way to put your MMA knowledge to the test than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook. Don't worry, if MMA is not for you, DraftKings Sportsbook also offers great odds and promotions on basketball, hockey. I'm going to throw golf in there too, with the British Open coming up, and so much more. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code, get this, DOP, when you sign up to turn $1 into $264 when you place a bet on the main event fighter to win by first round knockout. Place your bet and watch the fist fly this weekend. That's code DOP to turn $1 into $264 only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Cody, you also have something to say about Sundays now, too.
Yeah, well, geez, I've been racing my racehorse on set. Listen, the original plan, I know it's one of these hindsight things, is get a pony with everybody. If you're in, there's two ways we could do it. You could either put in a couple $100, and that would be like your bill for the year and 1% of the horse. Or if you were responsible and you would send in $20, $30 per month, then you could do it that way as well and just pay like a $30 per month for 1% on a horse. And I would just want to get a bunch of people, buy this horse, race this horse, and then collectively as like a community, we're all betting fights, we're all gamblers. We got a pony to race every week. So anyways, I don't know why I didn't just like float it out there, but I decided I'll just get the horse myself up front, right? Might as well get the ball rolling, right? So I bought the racehorse and then I raced her a few times being like, I don't want to sell people a share on a horse that's no good. And we won 3 in a row. So yeah, I've been racing on Sundays for now. Like if her class is not on Sunday anymore, I could end up a Wednesday or a Monday or Tuesday. It doesn't matter. But as of now, yeah, I've been racing Georgian Downs on Sundays. She's been doing real good. And she's made a little over $10,000 the last 4 weeks. So if this thing goes good as a pilot project, yeah, definitely something I want to get people involved in. So yeah, exciting times for me. But the true love, the true passion has always been mixed martial arts. It's the reason I didn't pursue horse racing as a kid. It's the reason I'm not the one that's driving the horse myself. Mixed martial arts is my passion. I've always wanted to watch fights. I always want to be involved. I always want to break them down. And you try not to love these guys too much. You try not to get too invested. But my boy Ronnie Barcelos, I loved him so much. He was my boy, and he was this close. And whereas the UFC, you get, next week I'll get the bad taste out of my mouth. There was no card the week after, and so now I've had 2 consecutive weeks, bad taste in my mouth from my boy Ronnie. Only thing I can do, Pat, is get back in track with some winning MMA picks, and that's exactly what I'd like to do.
Yeah, what you got to do is
Hold on. I meant you have a new show coming out.
Oh.
Yeah, by the way, Cody's doing more content for Mayo Media Network presented by DraftKings.
Well, essentially, and I hope you guys are following at this point, but I've been doing recaps for events after the fact, right? So we'll do a UFC, and then I always want to talk about it after the fact. What happened, what went wrong, right? What went wrong? Where can we learn? Where can we adjust? So I launched my own YouTube channel, CJ MMA, been putting the recaps on there. So Pat, very generous with the help of DraftKings, come on board. They say, you know what? We like these recaps. They're fun. People are engaging in them. And so why not put that on their platform? So going forward, there'll be no more UFC recaps on CJ MMA. I'll do Bellator recaps, PFL stuff. You'll still get the previews for that content over there. But yeah, Mayo Media stepping up again and helping me provide a bigger platform. And, I got like 900 subscribers. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, go check it out. Give us hit the like and subscribe, whatever the pitch everyone gives us. But Pat's got a much bigger platform. There's a lot more eyeballs on him. And yeah, that's the main thing is get good content, free content out to the listeners. In exchange for your guys' support. You guys have been kick ass, and I always appreciate it. And so if we can deliver some more stuff for you guys, I'm all for it. So going forward, recaps on Sundays, which I will do before I go race my pony in Georgian Downs. Check it out. And we'll start with obviously this Sunday coming up.
So 264-1. Cody has a horse, and Cody has more programming. All good news. Cody has a real horse, though. Lily can ride. But let's get back on this horse. We got Dustin Poirier takes on Conor McGregor. 3rd time these guys will fight. 2nd time at lightweight and 2nd time in 6 months. Dustin Poirier -125 favorite. Conor McGregor can be had for -103. I've had a complicated history with Conor McGregor. I started out as probably one of the biggest nut huggers. And frankly, I think pound for pound, Conor McGregor was the best featherweight of all time. Nobody could take that
pound
power.
for pound. Is he pound for pound, or is he the best featherweight?
Or, pound for pound is a stupid way to say it. He was the best featherweight as far as I'm concerned. Like at featherweight, nobody could take that power. He's so precise, so long, 74-inch reach at 145 pounds, just caused all sorts of fits for everyone. The power's just never translated. The fight from when they fought the first time, it hasn't I don't even really take that really into account. Dustin's chin was pretty questionable when he fought at 145 pounds. You could tell it really took a lot out of him. He's put on a lot of mass. I think Conor's put on quite a bit of mass. He looks really good from all the pictures I've seen of him. He hasn't done any pressers or anything like that leading up into this fight. But went back and watched the last fight, and it's kind of a re-emerging theme. It's like Conor comes out hot. If he's going to win, it's going to happen in the first round or maybe in the second round. But you get him past like 8-9 minutes, and he runs out of juice. He just doesn't have that type of power left on his punches. Add on top of that, Dustin Poirier's got arguably the best gym, maybe one of the best coaches behind him, and Mike Thomas Brown. I think it's time to load up on Poirier again. I haven't made a bet yet. I want to see how the rest of the week plays out, because you got Conor taking shots at Dustin's wife. I want to see how that affects Dustin, because Dustin can't just, he's got to fight this fight smart again. He's going to get tagged up in round one. He's got to take his time, hammer those leg kicks, wait for Conor to kind of slow down, and then take over late. If the 264-1, I think the play there on DraftKings Sportsbook is Conor McGregor, because I think Conor McGregor round one is his best path to victory against Diaz in the rematch that they had. I mean, he won the decision there, but after about 7-8 minutes into the fight, he fell off of a cliff. So my pick for the purposes of the show right now is Dustin Poirier. I haven't put any money on it. I want to see how the press conferences go. I want to see, we're going to have a full crowd at the MGM Grand, which is a lot different than 2,000 people in Abu Dhabi. Maybe that pressure kind of mounts on Dustin Poirier. It hurts him a little bit. And maybe, frankly, because it's a Conor McGregor fight, I can get a better price on Dustin Poirier later in the week as well. So I don't think there's any harm in waiting on this, but Dustin Poirier is the pick for me, man.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think the reason why you're getting this price right now is because it's Conor McGregor effect. I mean, literally, they just fought 6 months ago, and it ended in pretty spectacular fashion. Now, you can go back and say Conor McGregor won that first round. Yeah, he was actually, by the numbers, outstruck in the first round, but he landed the more meaningful blows. It was still close. But the way the second round ends, I mean, does anybody really think that this one would go a whole lot different? I'll admit he's got the power. I'll admit if someone's going to end this thing in the first round, you would think it might be Conor. And if Conor's taking this seriously, he can get back to that magic that he once had, then he's an absolute problem for everybody. But it's like you said, it's two things really. 145 pounds is a huge part of it, but it's also being completely poor, being a hungry up-and-coming fighter with nothing to his name. Remember when he beat Marcus Bribage and he got a $50,000 bonus out of it? And he's like, well, I'm on social welfare, so I guess I'm going to have to tell them to piss off now. Like, I got 50 G's. He goes from that to becoming the highest paid athlete, an absolute, international known figure, owns a whiskey business, is now apparently owning a chain of restaurants. I think that has also changed him. But namely, if you want to talk about his skill set, one of the most precision punchers of all times, got the power to back it up, has all those intangibles, could obviously talk a great game, which is the reason why he got such a head. But that durability, dude, it's always been there. It's always been a writing on the wall thing. So when you look at that run at featherweight, Marcus Bribage first round KO, Diego Brandao first round KO, Dustin Poirier first round KO, Dennis Siver second round KO, Mendez in the second round, Jose Aldo in the first round, right? He knocks them all over before the fight really gets going. The Aldo fight, Aldo should have been able to take him into some deeper waters, but again, he gets slept in 13 seconds. Chad Mendes was looking really good against him, but Chad Mendes was on a hunting trip a week before that, didn't even know about the fight, right? Didn't show up in particularly good shape. So he capitalized in that spot. The Max Holloway fight, that one went 3 rounds. Conor didn't look good. Tore his meniscus, in fact, when he wasn't able to just get Max out of there quickly. It's when he takes on these durable guys, that's when that first round knockout magic is just not there anymore, and he's getting to grueling fights. I don't know necessarily that power's gone at 55, because, look what he did to Eddie Alvarez. But the guys with good durability and good chins, they stand up to those shots. First Diaz fight, obviously. Second Diaz fight. That one, you mentioned, we're both talking about it. He's got a questionable gas tank, but actually he wins the 5th round against Nate Diaz. So in some regards, he dug deep. In some regards, he is capable of going to the 25th minute and fighting. That was all good to see. But that Nate Diaz rematch was almost 5 years ago to the day. The Eddie Alvarez knockout is nearly 5 years ago. It's over 4.5 years ago. Like that, lots has changed for him. And so when you consider he takes like 10 months off and then he fights Floyd Mayweather. And then after he fights Floyd Mayweather, he takes 14 months off and fights Khabib. Then after Khabib, he took 15 months off, came back and fought Donald Cerrone. Then he took 1 year off and came back. As a prime athlete fighting the best guys in the world, guys like Dustin Poirier, who are at American Top Team, grinding with the best athletes in the world on a day-to-day basis, running a whiskey business over in Ireland, hanging out at SPG Ireland, working with who, right? You're not going to be sharp enough to just get dropped in the box ready to go. Like, you need a qualifier. You need a tune-up. What he should have done is beat Donald Cerrone and then 3 months later fought again. You diced him in 40 seconds. Why not jump right back in there? The layoff is what kind of kills him. So actually, this will be a benefit that at least it's a 6 months turnaround, first of all. Second of all, his image is starting to look bad here. You look at his record and he's starting to show losses. His legacy is starting to become called into question. He's trying to run like a universal brand. You know, Floyd Mayweather runs a universal brand so that you can make money for a long time. Eventually, there's a market for you to fight exhibitions against no-name people. Conor wants to retain that, like that status as like an elite guy. He needs to pull up a victory. So you know he'll be motivated. He's going to show up in great shape here. He's going to have a different game plan. And he is going to punch Dustin Poirier clean in the jaw. You've seen it happen in the first fight. You saw it happen in the second fight. In fact, Dustin Poirier is a very hittable opponent. You saw Dan Hooker absolutely light him up pillar to post for 10 minutes. It's that durability. And so that's the $1 million question right now. Poirier lasts that first round. If he takes McGregor's best shots in that first round, and then we see a second, it's Poirier. Even if he loses the second round, as long as he's still alive after the first, I don't think that Conor's zip starts to drop off. You saw it in the boxing match with Floyd, where actually he looked pretty decent, in my opinion, first 3 or 4 rounds, and then the steam just zips right off. You saw it in the Diaz fight, where he drops Nate Diaz like 17 times up until the third round, and all of a sudden the zip's completely off of his punches. Even in the Khabib fight, he starts off very well, moves extremely well, stuffs a few early takedowns. I was very impressed by that. But, you know, once that thing gets dragged into some deeper waters and he does get taken down, you see the energy levels deplete out of him. So you might be able to beat. I think you could probably bet this thing live after the first round.
It's a live bettor's dream, this fight.
And get a much better price. Yeah, because after the first round, even if it's like that last fight, Conor goes out there, wins the first round. There's an idea of he's winning this fight, even though there's 20 minutes left to go. There's an idea that he's winning it in that moment. Then Conor backers, they slam it. Our boy looks good. Your boy always looks good first 5 minutes, first 7-8 minutes. Extended beyond that, and after the first round, when you're live betting, then you'll know, is Dustin Poirier still got a pulse, or is he still going? And if he's still going, then that's when he's going to tune it back into. Now, the outside noise is also a bit of a concern, because not only is Conor talking about his wife and all that, you got Colby that just won't shut up. You know, he's just into it. And I'm a Colby guy, don't get me wrong, but that's got to be distracting. Now you got to make a statement. Now your Instagram's blowing up. Now your Twitter's is blowing up. Now these reporters at the thing are like, do you want to talk about it? I don't want to talk about it. I'm getting ready for the biggest fight of my life. The last one was the biggest fight of my life. This is the new biggest fight of my life. I don't want to talk about a sparring match that happened a year and a half ago. Are you kidding me? But it's that narrative, right? That shit gets in your head. So I wouldn't rule McGregor out, but we got to go Poirier. That would be the logical pick, especially at this price and the live bet.
What did people think happened in MMA training camps? Like, do you think when guys go and spar, do you think people don't get hurt in sparring? Like, I don't know. Like, I guess going and new, it doesn't look great, but you didn't show the whole, they didn't show much more than a couple seconds after he walks away, says and new. It's like, he could have went up to him right after that and been like, are you okay, buddy? But, you don't see that part of the video. A bunch of malarkey, really.
Yeah, that's the thing. What people don't understand about the training room, as opposed to any other sport, right? You've played hockey. We played hockey. You played football, right? In the room, it's like, dude, we should help Jimmy get better because he's really bringing down the defensive core of the team, right? So you help Jimmy because he's part of a clog. This is not, they're helping each other, but the main goal of every training session is not to help that guy out. It's to you're trying to get better. And so it's a room of alpha males, and it's a room of optimistic alpha males. If they were pessimists, they wouldn't be fighting, right? Oh man, I'm not going to lose this fight. I'm going to get hurt and I'm going to make no money. I'm not fighting. If they're realists, they're not fighting. Oh man, probably get hurt and I'm going to get paid no money. I'm not doing this. If you're an optimist, dude, I am going to zip through this guy. I'm going to get paid, get laid, jump back into camp, get me a title shot. That's the mentality. And they're all badasses and they're all great athletes. and they all think that they can beat the best guy on any given night. And you cram 20, 30 of them, in ATT's case, 100 of them in the same space, they're going to start peacocking on each other, man. You know, you've ever seen peacocks duel it out over the other one? It's like, oh, look at this guy go. That's what happened. I'm not a fighter, but I spent a long time in the training rooms, and it's just like, it's like a workplace. You know, at a workplace where it's like, fucking that dude stole my sandwich out of the fridge. I know it, but what are you going to do about it? Dick all. Go complain to HR? Soft move. No, you don't want to be that guy, right? In MMA, there's a real easy way to figure out this dispute. You don't like a guy? Let's go talk about it over there, right? And so I'm not saying this guy was a dick to Poirier. You don't see the whole video, right? What if he was telling Poirier, I think Khabib's going to beat you. I think Khabib's going to beat you. And now Poirier
could just be an asshole.
Floats someone. Yeah, floats someone and then says, and new. He didn't yell it in his face either. He's standing at the back, and new. And here's the last thing I want to add to that, and new. He's getting ready for a world title fight, right? He could be a world champion. He's fighting the GOAT of all GOATs, any weight class, right? He's fighting the greatest fighter to ever put 4-ounce MMA gloves on. And he needs to be revving the engine. He needs to be chomping at the bit. He needs to believe I'm the best guy. And so when he drops him, he's not in his face, but he says to himself confidently as a man, and new, like, fuck yeah, Dustin, we're going to do this. Because he didn't unload on the guy. It was a snappy punch. It was definitely a snappy punch. But it wasn't like, I'm going to knock this guy out. It was just like, bing, bing, 2-piece. The guy folded over and he just walked away. Even the guy's coaches and stuff weren't even worried about it. They're all just like speaking to him in Portuguese, like it was the end of the round or something. Like no one was particularly concerned. And Colby painted it as it was a helpless amateur. And even then, I would say, well, I have to know the whole story because I've seen some amateurs talk a hell of a game and get beat up by pros. But Dustin says it's a 20-fight pro. And again, this is ATT. There's guys from all over the world. They're brought in to help you get ready for this world title fight. They're getting paid to be your sparring partner. You're paying these guys to be in there. Well, yeah, it's a fair game situation, right? So I don't hold anything against him in terms of that. But it's the fact that we're even talking about it, he's going to talk about it, and Colby's talking about it, it's like it's all just more shitty narrative.
No, but like I think we're talking about it from a sensible standpoint. It's just like they're training part. What do you think training partners come in to do when they're getting somebody ready for a title fight? They're not coming in to win rounds off of you. It's, you know, somebody's getting paid. You're paid for a service. And maybe that service would involve, like, I don't know, wearing headgear when you're in there with a savage like Dustin Poirier. But from what I gather, headgear is basically on the fighter to decide. So probably that guy decided not to wear headgear. Anyway, we've talked way too long about the main event. Let's get to the co-main event. We've got Steven, the Wonder Boy Thompson, taking on Gilbert Burns, minus 157. Steven Thompson, plus 126. Gilbert Burns, who you leaning here?
Okay, so this is really another puncher's chance versus durability issue. I think Steven Thompson paints another masterpiece on him. I think he's far too elusive. He's going to strike from far distance. He's got better cardio, better speed, better range, and he's just going to beat Gilbert Burns routinely to the punch. But anytime that you've been Superman punch KO'd by Anthony Pettis, at least first red flag goes up. And in Gilbert Burns' case, he's a savage. You know, he's going to enter the pocket and he's going to throw hooks with bad intentions. I mean, knocking out Damian Maia, especially he's in his 40s, but no easy feat, man. Like that is pretty much as tough as they come. So he's got power. We know that. He's coming off a fight with Kamaru Usman, where again he did not look. I can't say he didn't look good because the first 2-3 minutes he looked great.
Kamaru
right?
on stank legs for the first couple minutes. Like that was his moment, and I think he got a little bit revved up and excited, and then cardio seemed to kind of fall off of a cliff after that, which hadn't really been the case for most of the rest of his fights. But
no. I mean, he went 5 rounds with Tyron Woodley, right? And cardio looked good the entire way. He 50-45'd him and he cruised in that situation. But Tyron Woodley did nothing to push any sort of pace on him. So he got away with it in that spot. There's been a whole lot of other Gilbert Burns fights where it's like cardio not particularly good. Now, the fact that Steven Thompson's 38, it's like, oh man, you know me. Oh man, Jesus, 38. But he moves like a 27-year-old man. It's unbelievable. Where Gilbert Burns is 34, and again, he's not over the hill. He's not shot, but it's like he's not wowing me with like, oh, he's still getting better. He was right place, right time. When you look at the fact that he gets a title fight, he defeats a 41-year-old Damian Maia, over the hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a great name. He beats Tyron Woodley. Come on, been over that hill for time now. But again, he's a big name.
Paul's coming for that chin now.
Yeah. And then it's like he's the number 7th ranked contender, and he gets himself a title fight because there's nobody else, right? Colby lost, and the other guys are just kind of waiting in limbo, and Kamaru needs a challenger, so they throw Gilbert Burns in there. And yeah, he came out there bopping him, probably because he knew this guy is just a genetic freak. He fights for 25 minutes routinely. He's got great cardio, and that's Gilbert Burns' kryptonite. So he probably knew the longer this thing goes with Usman. I've been in the training room with him before. Maybe I have submitted him. That was a big narrative, right? Like, oh, his jiu-jitsu, maybe he knows how to beat him in the training room. And I bet you he has. But I bet you if it's like, oh, how many times have you submitted him within the first 3 minutes versus how many times did you catch him at the 15-minute mark? I bet you it's drastically different, right? And he knew that, so he came out hot fire. This fight with Stephen Thompson, to me, would be much of the same, right? He's going to have to get a quick start. He's going to have to cut off the cage. He's going to have to get in his face and hopefully land one of these hooks and hurt Thompson. We've seen Thompson, again, knocked out by lightweight and Pettis. We've seen him rocked by Tyron Woodley. We've seen him rocked by Darren Till, right? He can be hit. He can be hurt. But again, if you don't hit him and you don't hurt him, my God, it becomes a painfully bad night for you because he's so awkward in his movements. You can't get a real read on him. Jeff Neal's a bopper. Jeff Neal's got power. Jeff Neal was just reduced to following him around, clueless. But Neal is actually a very tough, durable guy, right? So he could take those shots and, just kind of get flustered, but move forward with it. Burns, his durability, in my opinion, is a little bit in question. And the fact is that Usman's not, the guy's got power. He knocked out Masvidal. He broke Colby's jaw. But it was like a stiff jab just dropped Gilbert Burns in that spot. And with Thompson, like that straight left on the pipe, the variety of kicks, the causing you to get flustered. Now you get over antsy. Now you try to bulldog forward, and he loves to counter, pivot off the line, reset, bouncing. It does not look like a 30-year-old man. His hair is starting to look. He's got the salt and pepper, which is cool. George Clooney's a cool guy. He rocks that look, but his skill set just looks real prime still, as far as I'm concerned. And barring a puncher's chance from Gilbert Burns, again, possible. I would think that the cream rises to the top. This better skill set will eventually prevail, and that should be his. The last thing is that no one's really talking. Probably no one's talking about. Burns has the jiu-jitsu edge. If he was to take down Stephen Thompson, be like, remember those Family Guy skits, the greased up deaf guy, and he'd be like, try to get the deep. That's taking down Stephen Thompson, man. He just moves so well. He's so hard to get an actual read on. Takedown defense checks out. If Burns was to take him down, he's really got to hold him down or snack up that submission, because if not, Thompson's just going to come out round 2, round 3, much of the same. If this is a 5-round fight, it would be. It's not, right? Just I'm making sure. Yeah, no, I thought that. Sorry. If this was a 5-round fight, I would be so far into Thompson. In a 3-round fight, it's only 3 rounds to work with. If you can get his attention early and you can maybe steal around 1 round with a takedown, 1 round with you rocked him with a punch, you can steal this fight from him. In a 5-rounder, he's going to cruise on you eventually. In a 3-rounder, Burns is more dangerous, but I still think that the outcome would be a Stephen Thompson. I'm thinking by decision. Could he hurt Burns, drop Burns? Yes, I think we've touched on that. But more than likely, he just dances around the outside, flusters him, and wins the pot shot battle. Yeah.
The only thing I have to add to it is we're in the big cage because we're at the big arena, right? So that even favors Stephen Wonderboy Thompson more. Just more room to stay on the outside, avoid getting taken down, and hit you when you come in on angles. Like he loves pressure fighters, and I guess like Gilbert Burns, obviously training partners with Vicente Luque. Maybe they've learned some things from that fight, but Luque, the stand-up game between Luque and Burns, not all that different. Luque's probably a little bit more fluid in his action. Burns with a little bit more power. Yeah, it's kind of like a puncher's chance, and his wrestling is good, but Stephen Wonderboy's been in there with even better wrestlers, and he's so hard to grab a hold of him. Particularly in a big cage, like he's just going to be able to dance circles around him. I'm with you. I think if it was 5 rounds at this price, it would be hide your kids, hide your wife, and put everything on Stephen Thompson. 3 rounds, it's a little bit less iffy, but Stephen Thompson is the pick here. We got Tai Tuivasa taking on Greg Hardy. Tai Tuivasa is a -143 favorite. Greg Hardy can be had for +115. I like Tai. Obviously, both of these guys, I think I've seen a lot of like the narrative out there is like Greg Hardy has better cardio. Now, he's went the distance with Volkov, and that was a pretty good performance, young in your career against
Russia.
In Russia against complete savage. But like, let's not forget, one, this guy had a no contest ruled in one fight because he pulled out a puffer after round 2 because he has asthma. And then, honestly, in his last time out there, he is just like against Tybura. He is huffing and puffing during round 1. He lands like 7 straight rights against Tybura. I don't know what Tybura was really thinking in round 1 there. Like, it kind of looked like he was off in La La Land. He must have got clipped. Like, I think Hardy landed like 46 strikes or something like that. Much more output than we're used to seeing from Hardy in one round. But like, he is huffing and puffing after that round 1. And like Ty's got a decision win, a very, very greasy, close decision win against Alex Arlovsky, or Andrei Arlovsky. I don't know why I'm saying that.
Alexander's like the most Russian name of all time.
I know. The one thing that really sticks out to me here, and you'll see Ty do it at least at the beginning of all of his fights, leg kicks. Just pace people with leg kicks early and often. I still haven't seen it from Greg Hardy, the ability to defend them. The Yorgan De Castro fight, Yorgan is having a ton of success round 1 and into round 2, just planting those big meat hawks that he's got for legs, just landing leg kick after leg kick, chopping him down like a tree. And then they say on the broadcast that like, I think Greg finally checked one. Greg didn't really check one. He just kind of like bounced back, moved away from it. And then Yorgan kind of hits him at like the ball, like the top of his foot. And he ended up spraining his foot, and that kind of made him not throw any leg kicks for the rest of the fight. I think that opportunity is still there. I think both of these guys are pretty durable. I don't feel great about like the unders, the over like 1.5 has already been like steamed up. Everyone kind of knows Greg Hardy looks really, really durable. Ty's as tough as they come. And Greg hasn't really shown like knockout power. Tuivasa is the play, but I feel like if we get to weigh-ins, we have a little bit more of a casual crowd watching this week. Not just the show, but just watching the card, getting action on the card. They're going to recognize the name Greg Hardy. They're going to see, if they see the weigh-ins, they're going to see, oh, this Greg Hardy's, a former NFL football player. He's three inches taller than this guy. This other guy kind of looks fat. I think we may get a better price on Tai Tuivasa because Tai opened up at like minus 170, and it's moved down pretty much across the board. So Tai Tuivasa for me, leg kicks early and often. Get after it.
Yeah. This one I'm having a tough time getting a read on it because, again, it's going to come down to durability. But what I can assure you is if you were a Tai Tuivasa backer, instead of betting him right now for that slight juice, hit him after the first round as an underdog. Greg Hardy's probably going to win this first round. In fact, I'm fairly confident Greg Hardy is going to win the first round. It really comes down to the cardio for Hardy. You mentioned the fact that he pulled out the puffer. Fair. He pulled out a puffer versus Ben Sassoli. Right? In the Allen Crowder fight, he got himself DQ'd because he was like, I'm gassed out, man. I don't want to fight here anymore. I might as well just plant a knee on this guy's face, put him away, and get it over with, right? He got himself DQ'd. He pulled out a puffer, and then the Marcin Tybura fight, he completely gassed out. You mentioned the Volkov fight. He went 3 rounds. But it was in Russia, so who knows if they tested anybody there on the card. But also, it was a very low output fight. It was like Volkov still had this perception of maybe this guy is a heavy hitter, respected him a little bit too much, and just played a safe game plan. Hardy was just happy to be there because he felt bad for the Sassoli incident, so he did them a favor by taking the fight on a week's notice or something in Russia. And yeah, just didn't pull the trigger. It was a main event, but it was only scheduled as a 3-round fight, right? So again, there wasn't a whole lot going on. He didn't gas out, but I think that's not an indication of how his cardio is. The difference for me is that Hardy is a much better athlete than Tai Tuivasa. He's green, but he's still making improvements. But the guy puts himself in a position to be the best he can be. He spent a lot of time at American Top Team. When eventually that fit didn't work out anymore, he went over to Sanford MMA. I guess when that fit didn't work out anymore, he spent a lot of time in Carolina getting more or less private sessions from Dean Thomas and Sugar Rashad Evans. But that Tybura fight, Paul, you really see he's putting his game together and what he's capable of. 6'5", 80-inch reach, like big athletic guy, moves well. His punches are starting to come together. Everything's a little bit tighter. but it just comes down to the cardio. As soon as he gassed against Tybura, by the way, he had Tybura in a lot of trouble in that first round, rocked him multiple times. And then as soon as that gas gauge just ran on empty, you mentioned he's durable. And I always thought the same thing. This guy is durable. Like, he is a fighter. He can take a shot. Like, he's not in there,
until
but
he's tired
he's got a
and
bit
lying on his back. Then
he's got a bit of quit in him. Yeah, he fishes out and he's just like, oh, you know what? I'm tired and I'm taking some shots. I'm just going to stay in this position a little bit longer. And that's the thing with Tai Tuivasa. He has not put himself in a position to be the best that he can be, but he's really tough. And he himself is very durable. And he's going to keep coming at you. It's sloppy. Absolutely. It's could be it could be a lot more effective, but there's no doubt that he moves fairly well for a heavyweight and he keeps coming at you. Now, his gas gauge, also not all that good. But I think if both guys got into a desperate situation, I'm going with Tai. Because you saw him in the Blagoy-Ivanov fight. He is absolutely roasted tired and just thrown from the hip side the best he can. Actually keeps it remotely close, to be honest with you. Fairly close fight.
The Arlovsky fight too. He's still hanging around in round 3. Like, he's not.
Yeah.
Dead,
whereas
dead
Greg's got this thing. Greg got this thing where when he gets tired, it's like you see him go wide-eyed and just kind of like he just starts breathing in heavy. He won the first round with Tybura. I had Tybura bet. I believe you were on Tybura as well there. And I was like, oh shit, man, we're this close to getting knocked out. It could be a 10-8 round, but more than likely 10-9. We got our ass beat. And he went and he sat on his stool. And right then I was like, we good. Because he's just absolutely gassed. So I can't, even though his skill set is improving, he's an asthmatic person. He's dealt with it his entire football career. He's been dealing with it in his MMA career. And he just doesn't seem to be able to figure it out. Despite being at ATT, despite being at Sanford, despite being with some of the best guys in the game, that's one element of his game he's just unable to improve. Whereas Tai, he's hanging in New Zealand. He's working with 45-year-old Mark Hunt. And dude, you watch some of that training footage, like Mark Hunt's beating his ass. And he's drinking shoeies. Him and Robert Whittaker drinking beers 3 weeks ago, right? That's all not a good look. He's not taking it as serious as he could. However, he'll get beat up in the first round. And then once you see Greg start huffing and puffing, Tai should work his way back into it. So the official pick is going to be Tai. And I don't love that. I can see Greg Hardy coming out here and looking good, but at some point he falls off. And for that reason, I think good life bet opportunity, bet Tai after the first round if he loses it, and get plus money, and then hope that he does what he does, comes back, and that Greg Hardy falters.
I was hoping that you would disagree with me on this one, so we could have a official shoey bet for next week's show. That's what the fans want. I was hoping Cody would say Hardy. Maybe we could just dub him saying Hardy and then force you to do a shoey next week.
Well, I'll tell you what, because I'm picking Tai Tuivasa, if he loses, I will take that shoey. I will do a shoey out of good
both
faith.
Of us, if Tai Tuivasa loses, we'll do a shoey on next week's show.
Yeah, because we are backing him, and straight up, he's gonna lose that first round. I don't want to hear him told you so. He doesn't look that good. Hardy does look good. It's all about rounds 2 and 3, and if he's in shape. And by the way, I just mentioned the fact that it don't look like he's taking it all that seriously. Yeah, that's all a concern to me. This one's not gonna be the most confident play on the card, but the play is Tuivasa, and I think we'll get a better price after the first round.
Irene Aldana takes on Yana Kunitskaya, minus 125. Aldana, minus 105. Kunitskaya. Who you got here?
I guess I would go with that slight underdog edge on Yana Kunitskaya. So she was at Greg Jackson's camp for a long time. However, it was kind of like the tail end of Jackson's as we remember it. It was more like the Winklejohn era. And I just don't really know realistically who she was working with or how it was going. Now, she's got skill, namely that she's very strong in that clinch. She is big body for the weight class. She can take a good punch. Like, she is a durable enough fighter. She's just got to close that distance and I mean, hold Irene Aldana up. Aldana's going to be she's like a poor woman's version of Stephen Thompson. She does play that outside game extremely well, and she's just pop, 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 pop. She's going to have a lot more volume. She's going to have that range. She's going to have that jab that she's going to stick in Kunitskaya's face. But again, Kunitskaya at Jackson's not the biggest fan going. And then she ends up getting with Thiago Santos. You know, they get together. I believe they're married now. They're certainly engaged. And she leaves and she goes to American Top Team. And whereas his game has seemingly gone downhill, her game's starting to flourish. She's starting to put it together really well. And I really do like what I'm seeing. That Yulia Stoliarenko fight, mind you, it's Stoliarenko, She's not really had a very good run in the UFC, so to speak. She has looked very limited. But the fact that she just controls her so easily in the clinch and is not hot bothered in the slightest bit by the fact that this is a very boring performance, just understands like this is exactly what I need to win in this fight. Ketlen Vieira was seen as a top prospect, seen as someone who was building some serious momentum and, putting herself into title shot contention, but Kunitskaya always in shape. She's got that smothering control game. And so with Aldana, really, I do think that she's going to have the striking advantage. She will have the output advantage, but it's kind of in the same song and dance with her. If you can clinch her up, you can control her up against the cage, you can slow down some of that striking. Again, her game kind of falls apart, and that's what I'm looking to happen here. This is the interesting note about Irene Aldana as well. Remember when she was fighting for Invicta? She was like, oh man, highly touted prospect. She's going to come to the UFC. She's going to be legit. You look at the Invicta win. She beat Peggy Morgan, Colleen Schneider, and Jessamine Duke. Damn, it's not exactly a spectacular run. Look at her wins in the UFC. Toledo Bernardo, Lucy Pudilova, Betch Correia, Vanessa Mello, and Ketlen Vieira. She's capable of defeating that lower level for sure. The times that she's stepped up, Raquel Pennington, Holly Holm, both of them were able to neutralize her more with that grappling style approach. And I think that Yana Kunitskaya too could do that. This is probably a pass. This is a pass as far as I'm concerned. However, I would label this a dogger pass. The unfortunate situation there is your dog's minus 105. So there really isn't a dog. I don't got the most strongest lean either side. It's just grappling versus striking. I will admit Aldana's the better striker. She'll land the more significant shots. Kunitskaya is going to hopefully clinch her up, hold her down. You mentioned that they're in the bigger cage. That is a very fair point. That would definitely play towards Irene Aldana. But again, I mean, I think Holly Holm was able to just say, you know what, screw the striking. I'm just going to resort to my grappling game, get a hold of her, do exactly that. Aldana's 33 years old. I don't think she's going to make significant jumps in her game. Whereas, again, credit to Kunitskaya, she seems to be flourishing. She's training with better training partners, putting herself in a better all-around environment. Her fiance is a full-time fighter. They have good sponsors. They are making money. She's put herself in a good position to succeed. And I would imagine that she's dealt with fighters like Aldana in camp. They've been able to specialize a game plan for her. Whereas with Aldana, I don't know. How do you prepare with someone like Kunitskaya? Like, there's very few people that are at that level that you can just bring in on a day-to-day basis.
Bring a teddy bear in there and just get the teddy bear to hug you, because that's basically what's going to happen this fight. It's going to be a lot of cage work. There's going to be a lot of... It's going to be just slowing, like one fighter trying to slow down the pace, the other trying to break away. But yeah, we've seen... I mean, yeah, Holm was able to take her down. Holm looked like freaking Habib when she took on Aldana. Just went to that wrestling, took her down, controlled her. I don't know if Kunitskaya is going to have the same success in that number of takedowns. Obviously, I think that was a 5-round fight, but I think a lot of cage work. And then you're coming down to like judging and how are the judges scoring this? You have like 3 minutes of like cage control with like a little bit of a takedown, a couple shots on the ground versus a few clean strikes on the feet. It's not a fight I really want to have too much exposure to myself.
To that point, Yana Kunitskaya's last fight against Ketlen Vieira, she spent pretty much the entire time on her back, got taken down 3 times on her back, and just landed the strikes. I thought she won that fight, to be honest with you. And when they read the decision, like online, they were so mad about what a robbery this is. So sick, so sickening. How could someone get 3 takedowns? It's like you didn't do anything. But that always goes back to judging. This would be a close fight, which is why I would probably spam underdog, but you're just not getting enough of an underdog there. So Yana Kunitskaya would be like that bottom end of that PRP because you felt the need to include everybody on the card on it. But the wise decision here, unless if you got a strong lean, you got a different opinion, you got somehow some insider info, hit up the comment section, hit me up on Twitter. But outside of that, it just seems like it's too much a risky business.
Yep, fair enough. All right, we got Sean O'Malley taking on Kris Moutinho. Sean can be had for minus 835. Moutinho is plus 525. Moutinho coming in on extremely short notice in this spot. It sounds like, O'Malley, I watched a couple podcasts with him on it this week, and he told the UFC, send me a list of people who can make 135 pounds. Cause he's like, I walk around at I'm like 139 right now. Like a week out from the fight. He's like, I don't cut that much weight. I don't know if I entirely believe that, but he's getting ready for 136. He's on like a main card of one of the most watched pay-per-views of the year. It's like nobody would step up to make 135. Ricky Simon said he would fight, and Ricky Simon was on the list, but then when they asked Ricky Simon to make 135, he's like, I can only do 145. So I don't really blame him for not really taking anybody. I'm just surprised that nobody wanted this opportunity. Watching a little bit of tape on Moutinho, I watched him against Johnny Campbell, who's recently got a win in Bellator, but I forget the name of the promotion that I saw him on. And honestly, there really wasn't much there. I watching it when you're looking at like a Sean O'Malley opponent. You're kind of looking like, I'm always looking. It's just like, does this guy have like punishing leg kicks? Because I think that's still going to be an issue for old turkey legs here. And it's not really there. I didn't really see much. He doesn't look horrible. Like most guys at 135 look pretty talented. You don't get to this level without being like very, very well structured fighters. But like this is lower end of 135 versus a very, very solid prospect. I expect O'Malley to win. I expect him to win by knockout. The question becomes round 1 or round 2, really. And a lot of those props are already super, super, super juiced as it is, like around every single market. Like what we got here. We got O'Malley round 1. O'Malley round 1 is plus 130 on DraftKings Sportsbook. O'Malley round 2 plus 300. I think he was on the Schmo Zone, and he said, like, book it round 2 for whatever reason.
Round 2, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm saying the same thing.
Round 2. So, Moutinho got knocked out in round 2 against Johnny Campbell. Or at least he got rocked a bunch of times in there, and it may have been a submission finish. Either way, it was not a good look for him in round 2. Round 1, he was actually looking okay, but I think this is a really tough spot for him. He'll get another fight for stepping up to the plate and taking this fight, but 835, you just have to start getting creative with like other ways to play this one. But O'Malley round 2, I guess, is what we're saying here.
Yeah, in fact, that's a great move by DK. We got an 835 because most other books it's like minus 950. This line is most definitely out of whack. And yeah, I'm not really sure what the angle for the UFC is. Clearly, they offered O'Malley a couple of opponents, and to his credit, he accepted those opponents. Just some of them weren't able to make weight. I guess it's not on him, but you never want to book. Well, I guess it's just a squash match that they've booked. It's not like you never want to book a 10-1. You don't want guys in your card that are 10-1 favorites. Just what's there to gain out of it? But Sugar Sean O'Malley has a following. He does sell good merchandise. He is known as, like, love him or hate him, he's a fan favorite. He's somebody that a lot of people are starting to take recognition of, despite the fact that he's not even in the top 10 of his weight class. He's got that name brand, right? But getting hurting your leg against Marlon Vera, to a lesser extent that Andre Sukmantath fight, because he actually did come out on the winning end of it. But yeah, people are starting to think maybe it's just theatrics. Maybe he doesn't got the goods. When he fights these lesser talent guys, man, he puts these career highlight reels together. And yeah, you would think that that's what he's going to get out of Kris Moutinho. Credit to Moutinho for being the guy that can step up and make 135. But you got to keep in mind that Moutinho would have already probably been told UFC's saying stay ready, stay on 135. If somebody falls out, you're going to jump in. At the very least, Contender Series comes up. You could jump on a Contender Series spot. There's going to be options for you, but stay on weight, which is what he's doing. He just fought, I want to say 5-6 weeks ago. Won that one, and that's probably when he was told, just, hey, stay on weight, stay close to what you got to do. But he's a career CES guy, right? His first 11 pro fights were all for the CES organization. I think he went 7-4 strictly for CES. Challenged for the title one time against Tony Gravely, and was TK'd in the 4th round. It's very much like Dennis Paiva. Dennis Paiva is like a 20-time CES veteran, but when I think he went 13-7 over those 20 fights. Challenged for the title twice, came up short both times. They're career East Coast regional scene guys out of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, tough, durable, game, but they're not jumping to that next level. So yeah, with Sean O'Malley, how does he lose his fight? He hurts his leg. It's also MMA, anything could happen. But yeah, you would think that someone's got to put some pressure on him, or kick his leg, or at the very least, Sean kicks you and hurts himself. But I just don't think Moutinho is the guy to stand up to him. The fact is, his last 2 losses are both by TKO. They're both 2 smaller hitting 35ers. Well, Johnny Campbell's actually a pretty heavy hitter, to be honest with you. But even though he's coming off a huge win over Henry Corrales in Bellator, huge win over, I think he was like an 8-1 underdog. The guy is a regional show guy. He is a mid-level fighter. He is a guy that I think was 17-14. He has that mid-level record, but just way too much experience, way too much firepower for a guy like Kris Moutinho. Moutinho did win by submission in his last fight, so maybe there's that recency bias of like, well, if he can get O'Malley down, I honestly think the key to Sean O'Malley is take his ass down. Like, I know his leg was hurt against Marlon Vera, but once he was on his back, his head was getting dribbled like a basketball, homie. Like, it was bad. He had no way out of it. I think you neutralize this guy. Merab Dvalishvili offered to take this fight. You don't take that fight if you're Sean O'Malley. No. You don't take any fight versus a guy you think is going to ground you with routine success, because I think that would be the pass. So with Moutinho, why not flip the script? Instead of everyone saying
he was going to take
Ricky
Ricky Simon, he said, if Simon could make 135, in fairness. And what do you think Simon was going to come out there and try to he was going to shoot basically immediately and over
for
and
sure.
and over
But some of that, you don't know if some of that's posturing as well. Ricky Simon cuts a ton of weight to make 135
so he probably knew that
he was short.
This guy's full
I would
of it.
think
He knew that he couldn't make it on this type of notice.
I'd be like, there's no way he makes it. His manager's already asking, can we do this at 45? So I'm going to go on Twitter real fast and be like, I accept, knowing that in about 3 hours time, it's going to come out that he can't make 35. And I'm going to look like the badass gangster that took the fight. And then when they offer me this fight a couple months down the road, I'm going to be like, that dude bitched out. I'm not giving him a fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's all great theatrics. Anyways, the O'Malley train rolls on here. I think he gets himself a TKO. I honestly think it gets to the second round. Sorry, the thing I was saying with the submission, though, is he got a submission when Moutinho in his last fight. That's his first career submission. He's not a submission guy. I think O'Malley puts him away. I want to give him enough respect to say he gets out of that first round and makes it to the second, and then O'Malley has a plus 300 hit in the second would be a lot better. There's not a whole lot of meat on the bone. Like you said, we got to figure out a way to improve it. But the one thing I will admit with O'Malley, he shows a lot of first-round knockouts. But when you take on a guy that you're fighting on a week's notice, that a lot of the tape is not readily available to you, it is dangerous. You tend to take your time a little bit more against these guys. And I could see him going out there, feeling it out in that first round, hurting him a bit, and then putting the pressure on him in the second. That being said, under 1.5 also seems like a decent way to approach this fight as well. But yeah, I mean, what do you want me to tell you? You got a near 10-1 favorite here in Sean O'Malley, and I'm not picking against him. So I think a lot of us are on the same page there.
The under 1.5 is at minus 190.
Yeah,
I mean, you think that happens 66% of the time?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has a shot at cashing, but at minus 190, there's just not enough on it.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We've got Max Griffin taking on Carlos Condit. Max Griffin minus 190 favorite. Carlos Condit plus 150. I got a greaser on this one. I like Max Griffin to get the win in this fight, but at minus 190, I'm kind of thinking it all kind of comes down to like rational game plan. And I don't know if I trust Max Griffin to go out there and turn this into a wrestling match. Now, he has done it against Zelim Imadaev. He took him down 6 times and he was fishing for subs. Alex Morono is like a black belt, but he was able to take him down 4 times and hang out in that range. Took down Cowboy Oliveira twice. I saw out there in this sphere a 20-1 Griffin by sub prop. Now Griffin has no subs in the UFC, so take everything with a bit of a grain of salt here. It's 16-1 at DraftKings Sportsbook, which I definitely would play as well. I just think that how do you beat Carlos Condit in this fight if you're Max Griffin? It's not hanging out at range and getting into a kickboxing match with him. So the move, in my opinion, is take him down. And while you're down there, you might as well fish for some submissions. That's what my thing is. Give me the 20-1 on a minus 190 favorite in what I believe is his best path to victory, rather than laying that minus 190 and then being like, man, I bet a juice line hoping that a guy would fight a certain way. Just a lot less risk for it, and I think that is the best path to victory. Could he win by decision by securing takedowns and landing a little bit of Ground and pound, yes, but I don't really like his chances if he just wants to turn this into a striking affair with Carlos Condit. So Max Griffin's the pick. Hopefully he's shooting for takedowns, and for me, hopefully he's fishing for some subs. What's your take here?
Yeah, I got to go with Max Griffin. I think Griffin does shoot for those takedowns. I think he fights a little bit more of a well-rounded, all-around game plan, and that yields success against Carlos Condit. He understands the spot he's in. This is a big-name fight for him. He's been usually fighting these mid-level to lower mid-level name guys, certainly in the UFC. And listen, the thing with Max Griffin is he's got a spotty reputation amongst fight fans, I would say. This is a guy that currently, I think he's 5-6 in 11 fights in the UFC, and he's won his last 2. He was previously 3-6 in 9 UFC outings before riding the ship. So that in itself, it's like he's less than a 50-50 guy in the UFC. You don't really want to be betting these guys as any type of favorites. I get the narrative of going against him. I'll make him a few excuses here. That, yeah, he's fought a lot of bad game plans, but he won his last 2 fights. The fight with Cowboy Oliveira, split decision loss. I thought he won. He needed to get his wrestling going earlier than the 3rd round. When he decided to use his wrestling, that's when he had his most success. So, okay, fair. Some people scored the fight for him. It was a split decision for Oliveira. All I'm saying it was a close fight. In another world, it could have gone his way. That's actually the 5th split decision of his career. I think he's like 3-2 on splits, but he has a lot of these close fights. The Alex Morono fight, he waited too long to get his wrestling going and ended up losing that fight, but a very close fight. The Thiago Alves fight is a flat-out robbery. The Curtis Millender fight, who fights Curtis Millender and doesn't take him down? Well, what are you doing? But again, it comes back to ring IQ. So with Griffin, I don't know that he's going to fight the best game plan, just like you're saying, but the skills are there. And surely when you look at guys that have fought Carlos Condit, the success comes from taking him down. He's still ultra durable. You know, you could submit him, I guess, but he's still got good durability. He is a BJJ black belt. He's got a cast iron chin. He's got a pretty good gas tank. He wears damage quite well. He's able to come back from difficult spots. Yeah, he's a durable guy. So you're going to have to find a way to neutralize him over the course of 15 minutes. Standing up and striking with him for 15 straight minutes, playing right into his game plan, that's not what you want to do at all. And that's exactly what Court McGee did. He stood right in front of him. He effectively shot 0 takedowns, had a kickboxing match with him. And you know what? By the numbers, it's 88-85 in favor of Carlos Condit. Like, Court McGee's actually doing a decent job. And if you watch the fight, Court McGee's hustling up. He's hustling him up in spots, but then he gets dropped. He gets knocked down. He gets hurt. The bigger shots are coming from Condit. But McGee's not totally out of it in a one-dimensional kickboxing match. I would say that Max Griffin has got a nasty jab on him, nasty right hand. He packs more power than Court McGee. He can be a problem in the striking realm, but hopefully he uses it just enough to set up these takedowns, get a hold of Condit, get him up against the cage, peel him to the ground, and make this as ugly as you can. I think Griffin's got the skills to do it. And at minus 190, don't like it, but the Griffin by decision's like plus 135, I want to say. And to me, like, he's not submitting. It's Max Griffin. He has no submission wins. I don't think he's submitting Carlos Condit, and I don't think he's knocking out Carlos Condit. I really don't. So his path to victory would be use those takedowns, steal a few rounds, use the striking just so that it's competitive standing, and then ultimately take you down. Last but not least, if you do want to talk about the numbers on it in terms of the striking, if Griffin doesn't shoot those takedowns, he traditionally does show a little bit more volume all around. Like, he's had a couple good performances. That fight with Ramiz Abrahimaj, right? 74 strikes landed before the ear blew up. He landed 112 in his fight with Thiago Alves. He's got 75 in the fight with Alex Morono, plus 4 takedowns against Alex Morono. He's a guy that can mix it in well. Whereas with Carlos Condit, it's a lot of like lower output, I find. Like that his last time in particular against Matt Brown. I mean, Brown kind of had him in some difficult spots early, just wasn't able to close out. And it's Matt Brown. I don't think he's built for 15 hard minutes anymore. But you've got Carlos Condit landing 39 strikes and had to rely on his own takedowns to help secure that decision victory over Matt Brown. It didn't look like Condit's back. Whereas I will admit with Griffin, he's fighting lower level guys his last couple, but he is looking like he's improving. It does look like he's getting better coming into his own. So I'm going to go with a Griffin by decision. But I the confidence level not where I'd want it just to slam that. But at plus 135, Griffin by decision. It's a good enough one that I'm going to include it as a play this week.
Griffin by sub 16-1 at DraftKings Sportsbook. Right? Come get rich. Actually, I have another prop later on the card that I like even more than this one. But we'll get to that later. That's what they call in the biz a tease. All right, we got Michel Pereira taking on Niko Price. Michel Pereira minus 162 favorite. Niko Price can be had for plus 130. What they? I know that you've actually pretty much like read Michel Pereira's career like a cheap romance novel. I mean, you called the Tristan Connolly like plus 425 win. You've been the ebbs and flows of this guy's career, and it's been all over the place. Just like the early part of his career, how his style was all over the place, doing backflips and jumping off of the cage and all of that. It's just like, it's kind of hard to know which Michel Pereira is going to show up. I imagine this arena is going to be packed. I imagine it's going to be very excitable in there. He's got a guy across the cage from him, Niko Price, that he is there to bang. Like, are we going to see old Michel Pereira show up? Like, is this going to be an absolute barn burner? Because it's a little bit risky betting Michel Pereira at minus 162, really against anybody if he's doing backflips. Like, I love it from an entertainment standpoint, but interesting fight. I mean, you've been reading Michel Pereira's fights like pretty much to a T every single time. What's your take here?
Yeah, so I'm actually a Michel Pereira fan. I mean, how could you not be? He goes out there and he puts it on the line. But I've always said I don't want to bet him if he's going to go out and do that jazz. He's got a pretty solid fundamental skill set. And if he fights with the fundamentals, he's so strong at 170 pounds. Like, what are you going to do? If he gets his hands on you, his wrestling's not great, but he's physically strong. He just brutes you to the ground. His stand-up, it's like he's got a ton of power. If he hits you, he could hit you with that one power shot, the flying knee. That cartwheel kicks out. That doesn't really work. But the flying knee especially, like, it's a one-hitter quitter. He's got a nasty overhand right. But beyond that, I mean, he can just stick the jab. He can stay at range. He's very fast for a guy that's so physically strong, so big for the weight class. He can go a hard 15 if he needs to, if he makes the weight and shows up in shape. But he's so crazy that, yeah, it is difficult times. I'll admit, I find myself very fortunate on this guy. The only one that I have gone wrong is that I thought he would dominate Diego Sanchez and win a decision, because Diego is so notorious to put away that I thought he would win a decision, and he is on his way to winning that decision, and he got himself disqualified, right? Yeah. So, yeah, Dems to breaks on that one. Again, he's got just like crazy amount of explosive power, but this is what happens. So the Tristan Connolly fight, he shows up with no corner man. He misses weight at 174. His body's shutting down. You could still got Connolly as a 5-1 underdog. Connolly goes out there and puts it on him. But he realized in that fight, shit, maybe I shouldn't have done that backflip. Yeah, maybe I should have done that cartwheel. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have run off the cage like that. Maybe I should have danced all the way to the octagon. In the Diego fight, he fought way more conservative, but he got himself disqualified. The Zelina Medaya fight, he fought very conservative, but just used the takedowns very effectively. The striking, in Medaya, the Z-Man was supposed to be, they were calling him Zabit 2.0. Like, he's supposed to be a very refined striker, nasty striker. And like nothing, Pereira just cruised right through him, but he fought with the fundamentals. Now in this Chaos Williams fight, he fought a fundamentally sound game plan. But it could have gone either way. Now I thought Pereira won. I bet Pereira, I thought Pereira won. There's a strong argument that Chaos Williams lands the better shots, I guess. But he fought almost too conservative. And now, mind you, he's worried about the power. How could you not be when you're fighting Chaos Williams? Especially that Chaos Williams where he still had this perception of the death touch, touches you, you're dead. So yeah, he fought super conservative in that fight, but it left a little to be desired. And so here's the thing with this fight, right? He went from being the most exciting guy on the roster to now it's like, oh yeah, he's entertaining, but he's not the most entertaining guy on the roster. That when the fans are there and they're cheering and he sees a spot on a willing participant in Niko Price, he might go balls to the walls. And for that reason, I don't know. I'm thinking underdog play on Niko Price.
But Pereira's durability has really held up. The guy's got a chin from everything I've seen.
I agree. And so
like Price's durability is questionable. Like, he gets a lot of first round finishes. He's got the quote unquote death touch. He's knocked guys out from his back with hammer fists. Like, if you do that to anybody, you got some power in those hands. But his chin has been compromised multiple times. Watching him versus Cerrone, I mean, he wins that fight, obviously, if it's not for the multiple eye pokes in round one. And Donald hams up those eye pokes just a little bit to get Jason Herzog to take a point as well. Move. But Yeah, he didn't look like he looked good. He fought very, very long. He's gonna have a bit of a reach advantage. I can totally see it. I just, I don't know. Everything, anytime I've seen, and fair is fair with Michel Pereira. It's just like he hasn't really been fighting anybody with like besides Chaos Williams, and he took him down a bunch and tried to neutralize that power. Not many guys have landed like clean on him. Niko Price could do that. It's definitely possible.
That's kind of why I got this one as a dogger pass. As much as I want to go Pereira, and I am a Pereira believer, you got to go back to like that body of work. So it's like Chaos Williams got that power, but he didn't really engage him. He fought a tentative game plan. Zelima Madaya was 0-3 in the UFC and then released. Diego Sanchez, like, oh man, what a bad run Diego Sanchez has been on for the last number of years. Those are all expected. Tristan Connolly moved up from 45. And in fact, his next fight after beating this dude at 170 was back at 145. And he put the beating on him. So as much as we like the theatrics of it, it's like he's got losses to Tristan Connolly and Diego Sanchez, wins over Imadaev and Chaos Williams. Chaos Williams didn't even look good against Matthew Semmelsberger his last time out. Now, when you talk about Niko Price, okay, we can poke some fun here. Donald Cerrone, shit, it's an age version of Donald. And was it just a no contest? But I thought he should have won, right? You agree with that. That Vicente Luque fight, which he loses, absolutely. Whoa, what a fight, man. Like, what a fight. That's a dog fight. And that's what he's going to have to bring out here in Michel Pereira's. He's going to have to take him in that dog fight. When you look at Niko Price, he's long, he's rangy, he's got power. But again, you check out the social media stuff. He's been on a suspension since the Cerrone fight almost a year now. But he looks in incredible shape. I know, such bullshit. He looks in incredible shape. He's clearly been working a lot on, like, gymnastics, like physically, he just looks really ripped up, great flexibility on the guy. And he's been spending time at MMA Masters, ATT, and he's been in Las Vegas at like Extreme Couture. Whereas you've got Pereira's been in Vegas as well at like a small little jiu-jitsu gym where he's like mostly training gi jiu-jitsu. So the game plan might be from Pereira to force this thing to the ground. And that's not a bad game plan. But I think once the fans start cheering and he starts to get that adrenaline coursing through his veins, and he tries some fucking backflip, I think Price is going to be there to capitalize. That's fair. And so again, Price has lost to Jeff Neal, Vicente Luque, and to a lesser extent, Abdul Razak Al Hassan, who at least we can all admit cracks like a motherfucker for the first couple of minutes. Like he's got big power, right? If I'm going to give Niko Price a pass in that regard, okay. He's never lost back-to-back fights in the UFC. He's rotated a lot of these win-loss situations, and I think that he's due to come in here and hopefully put one together. Last but not least, even in the post fight with the Cerrone, you see how much he really did respect Donald. And part of it's like, I didn't want to, I don't know. He fought a lot different than he would normally. Off a year-long layoff, chomping at the bit, hasn't taken any damage, coming in 31 years old, excellent shape, 5 kids this guy's got. You got to go out and provide, my man. Like I think he's live as an underdog. So for that plus money, I don't mind it. But whenever you bet against Michel Pereira, same thing when we cashed Connolly. There was a flying knee that was about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches off the mark that would have slapped him in that first round. Like, this is MMA. We're going to need a couple good bounces along the way. But I think that another guy's going to be primed to pull off a plus money upset over him. I'm hoping Niko Price is that guy.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it is a dog or pass situation. All right, we got Ilia Topuria taking on Ryan Hall. We got Ilia Topuria as a minus 250 favorite. Ryan Hall can be had for plus 195. Went back, watched Ryan Hall versus Darren Elkins last time out. And you know what? A lot of people give Ryan Hall a hard time. I mean, he's not actually as boring as people. Like, of course he likes to drop back to his back. Like, he wants you to go to the ground with him. He's an absolute wizard.
Try
down
it,
there.
pal.
Yeah, come on down. The water's warm, buddy. Come on down. But it's like he's throwing spinning elbows, spinning back kicks. The spinning back kicks are actually like quite dangerous. He doesn't seem to have much like power in his hands. But like he's super exciting. If he jumps for an Imanari roll, grabs Topuria's leg. I know Topuria is a black belt, but there's levels to this game. There is a possibility for him to, find a submission, get a finish in some way, shape, or form. Now, this may be just a little bit of like conjecture or whatever, but I look at Ryan Hall's body and I look at what Ilia Topuria did to Damon Jackson last time out and the type of body work that this guy puts in with his hands. Don't go to the Yusuf Zalal game plan. We can't just force this to the ground at any time. If it goes there, be safe and all that. But like if he lands those types of body shots to Ryan Hall, I think the gig is up. Like Ryan Hall's been on a hell of a career. He's 8-1 in his career. He rarely ever fights, but it's like he hasn't fought a guy with these hands and like this type of like body shots. I think more often than not, I think the line is probably pretty close to correct. Like I think Ilia Topuria wins 70 to 75% of the time in this matchup. And I think it's a lot of like, he just like melts his body and just roasts his liver. Ilia Topuria is the pick. But Ryan Hall's a dangerous dude, man. Ryan Hall by sub. If I was going to play Ryan Hall, like I probably wouldn't take the money line. I would play the sub. And I know that a lot of the other guys besides BJ Penn, who he grabbed that Imanari roll immediately and was able to finish, the other guys all get to decision with him. They're able to, when they see the Imanari roll coming in, they're able to disengage, get away, and let him back up. Topuria on the feet should just break the pocket and attack. Just be ready for that Imanari roll because it's coming. But yeah, Topuria for me. What about you?
Yeah, listen, Ryan Hall's a hyper specialist. So anytime you can get plus money on a hyper specialist, if he can find a way to drag this into his domain, he's going to be ultra effective. And in his case, it's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But the UFC, I don't know, this is how matchmaking works, right? Nobody wants to fight Ryan Hall. I mean, he looks like they got him in all these memes like, imagine telling people this dude could kick this dude's ass. Like, he's just like a meme. He looks nerdy. He looks very unassuming. He's the kind of guy that you wouldn't want to kick sand in his face at the beach, but you can see somebody doing it. What was this guy going to do about it? But it's like, oh, you got another thing coming. But nobody wants to fight. So the UFC is like, you know what? Screw him. Let's give him wrestlers that he won't be able to take down. So he won't be able to use his jiu-jitsu. He'll be forced to stand, and he can't stand. Only, man, he figures out a way to make it work for him. He's got these kicks. And that's what the jiu-jitsu guys do. They kick, front kick, leg kick, side kick, front kick, kick. And then what's your option? He's kicking me the whole time. He's controlling the range. So you eventually say, I'm coming at him. You close it, and he sits on his ass. Mm-hmm. What do? You follow him to the ground? That's a bad idea. You let him back up. He just gets back up and just starts kicking again. Masterful performance against Gray Man, to be honest, where he literally almost knocked him out with a few of those kicks. Mm-hmm. The Darren Elkins fight, it's like Elkins has no path really to engage him. The BJ Penn fight, you submit BJ Penn, that's dope. And then the Artem Lobov fight, again, this is great ring IQ. He knew he could just take the back and backpack him at will. And even though he couldn't submit with the rear naked choke, and even though the fans are booing, and even though Artem Lobov is waving, and looking around like, what are you doing? No ref is ever going to stand up a back take. Are you kidding me? You can backpack a guy and spend 5 full minutes. They are not going to save you from that position. And so the fact that Hall just routinely went to it, yeah, man, he's the kind of guy that he could just win 2 of these 3 rounds and create serious problems for people. Funny story quickly is that Ryan Hall lost his pro debut in 2006. And then he took 6 years off from MMA, decided he was going to return to the sport in 2012 at Slam 1. Paul and I in attendance there to watch Robin Black's retirement fight. And Faraz Zahabi, because he's at TriStar, Faraz Zahabi tells him, he's like, Ryan, don't rear naked choke this guy. I know it's going to be easy to get the back take. I know it's going to be easy to put the hooks in. I don't want you just going out there and subbing this guy in a minute and a half. You need experience. You need to learn, So the fight starts. He's taking on this Philip Deschambeau from like Manitoba or Saskatchewan, I think it was. And he just immediately takes him down. He immediately takes his back. He goes to get the rear naked choke. And Frost is like, Ryan, and he stops. And so he just starts punching and he TKOs him from the back take. Like he is the wizard for a reason. He's not I don't think he invented the 50-50, but he is certainly the master of the 50-50. He's certainly made a name for himself in the jiu-jitsu world for that position. He's good with leg locks. He's got a nasty back take. He's got a rear naked choke. That's all well and good. Plus money for a guy like that. Yeah, why not? But I can't go against Topuria. I mean, I've been high on this kid since he came to the UFC. We got plus money against him against Yusuf Zalal, which looks like shocking.
Insane value when we look back on it now. But he had some tough spots in that debut.
Yeah, and you know what? He was making his debut versus a kid that had won 3 fights that year, right? So you get why. But if you looked at him online, he's a BJJ black belt. He's shredded to the T. This is before the UFC debut. Shredded to the T, BJJ black belt. And it appears that he's a very wealthy individual. Like there's the license plate on these cars say Topuria. So one's going to assume this is not a photo op situation. And it's like, he seems like one of these guys that has got a great system around him, an ability to train at a very high level. He's young. He's a great athlete. Money's not a problem. He doesn't have to work a side job. He's able to focus on this, and he's putting it all together. When he came in against Zhalal, what he showed, as well as, he has the black belt, was that improving striking and brick wall hips, man. Like, he's hard to take down. He's hard to just grapple with over a prolonged period of time. He's just eventually going to wear you down. And so I thought he fought an excellent game plan against Zhalal Cassius. Now the Damon Jackson fight, Jackson's a little bit tad soft on the durability. And so Topuria had, I want to say it was 0 career wins by knockout. And you could get him, I hit it actually, plus 350 by him by knockout. And he goes out there and cooks the body. Because you saw from the Zhalal fight, Zhalal is very durable, but his hands had improved massively. And then now you see in the Damon Jackson fight, body work, which you always like to see, especially out of a young fighter. Heavy hands for a guy that had no career knockouts. Ability to fight because he looked a little tired against Zhalal. First time going 15 minutes and took the UFC debut as an underdog on short notice. Pretty dope. The Jackson fight, he gets him out of there pretty early, but I'm going to assume the cardio's in check, the power's in check, the skill set's improving. Ryan Hall's not physically strong enough to pull him to the ground, so Topuria should dictate where it takes place. I don't think he wants to go to the ground, so keep it standing. And unlike Darren Elkins, unlike Gray Maynard, unlike a shot version of BJ Penn, he's got the skills to pressure him as well. Mm-hmm. And so Hall has been off for a while. I think he's 37 now. Yeah. He maybe 36, but he hasn't fought in a couple of years. And 36. To go back to that story, you and I watched him. He wins his, it was his first pro MMA win, right? And it was cool. And he just cut through the guy like a hot knife through butter. That was 9 years ago.
That makes
right?
makes me feel old.
And he's had 7 pro fights in that time.
Yeah.
In those 9 years. So yeah, like he's sneaky. And the way he would beat Topuria is Topuria gets a little over eager and backpack, hold on. Second round, back take, hold on. Third round, survive, fall to your ass, butt scoot, whatever you need to do. If he was able to do that, he's springing the upset here. But I think Topuria is finally going to be the guy that's got his number. I don't know if I'd like it by TKO, even though he's possible. Work the body, like you said, hurt that liver, soften this guy up. Certainly a possibility. But at the same time, when you're a jiu-jitsu oriented guy, it's a defensive martial art. Like, there are ways to survive. And Ryan Hall's a bit of a survivor. Like, he's got excellent ring IQ. He's a very smart individual. And that's one thing, if you've ever spoken to him in real life. I think he came to the Fight Network a couple times. Regardless,
yep.
If you've ever spoken to the guy, he's got a bit of a speech impediment, like a bit of a slur. Don't let it fool you. Very, very, very smart individual. Knows, don't get hit, don't take damage, take care of business. And that kind of approach could make this a very dull fight, but a losing side on the betting ticket for us. We don't want that. But I think Topuria is going to be the guy that's well-rounded enough to wherever it goes, he should be okay. So I'm going to take Topuria. I'm leaning towards that Topuria by decision, but I'm hoping he just goes out there and gets the victory.
All right, we got Dricus du Plessis taking on Trevin Giles. Du Plessis minus 118, Giles minus 106. Went back, I'd watched a whole bunch of the KSW work from Du Plessis in the past. Those fights with Roberto Soldic. Those are classics. I mean, the guy finishes a lot of fights, but it's like his UFC debut against Marcus Perez. Like, he's looking a little bit. He's like winging his punches a whole bunch, so he's looking a little bit wild out there. Trevin Giles, on the other hand, last time out against Roman Delites. I mean, he's losing. I feel like Delites kind of gives away round 2. Or was it round 1 or round 2? Delites goes for an ankle lock and then gets hammered in the face a whole bunch of times. So it's like Delites was kind of winning the fight on the feet, and I don't think Delites is some sort of crazy good striker by any stretch of the imagination. I think I'm siding with Dricus here, but I don't really love what I saw from him. I mean, the power, good on him. Like, the power, knocking out Marcus Perez, I believe that was the first time Marcus Perez had ever been knocked out. I mean, that's saying something. It was a weird shot, kind of halfway behind the head and the ear at a weird angle. Kind of one of those things that just happen in MMA. I've never been high on Giles, but the guy's 14-2 at this point in his career. He's obviously got James Krause in his corner, so he's making the improvements. I feel like if it's Giles, it's probably Giles and the over, or Giles by decision. If it's Dricus, he's finding either because he's got a bunch of subs on his record as well. Maybe he finds a sub. That has been a path to victory for Trevin Giles, or against Trevin Giles, for some other foes in the past. I'll pick Plessis for this, but I got nothing on it yet. What about you?
Yeah, fair. I think that Duplessis could be very dangerous, both with the leg kicks and also, the submission game. That's probably something that's a little bit underrated from him. But when you look at him, I mean, just like look at his last couple submissions, right? Brendan Lassar, it's a guillotine choke. He submits Yannick Bahati, it's a guillotine choke. This Rafael Hartik, it's a guillotine choke. Martin Van Steeden with a guillotine choke. So he shows 4 wins by guillotine on his record, including 3 of his last 4 most recent submissions are by the guillotine. That would be his submission of choice. In Trevin Giles' case, both of his pro losses in the UFC are both by guillotine choke. He also has an amateur loss because he was 5-1 as an amateur. Sorry, 4-1 as an amateur. That amateur loss is also by guillotine choke. So, I mean, I don't want to just drop this narrative like, MMA math, so to speak. One guy's win, but that's always going to be a problem with Giles. His cardio is not particularly good. The longer the fights go, he starts to get touched up. He starts to get damaged. And when he gets damaged, he leaves his neck out there. That Zach Cummings fight, I mean, he gasses out hard. He wins the first round, as he usually does. The second round, he tires out. He loses. The third round, he's tired. He's losing. Zach Cummings drops him. As he's trying to recover from the knockdown, he gets snagged up in this guillotine choke and gets submitted. The fight with Jared Mearshart, wouldn't you know it? Giles starts out pretty good. As soon as Mearshart starts putting some pressure on him, he starts to fatigue. Mearshart probably wins that second round. We've got ourselves a 1-1 going into the third. Mearshart just breaks him, sells him with a guillotine choke. Now look at those subsequent wins that put him back on track. He fought James Krause on 24 hours notice. Krause took the fight on 24 hours notice. James Krause is a lightweight. Best days at 55. He can he can moonlight as a welterweight, and he in fact often does, but best days at 55. This fight's at 185. And he took the fight on 24 hours notice at most, maybe less. Crazy. There's also a strong argument that James Krause may have won that fight. So Giles is coming off 2 bad performances, the 2 losses, and then to win with the split over James Krause, that's not a redeeming win in my opinion. Now you get Bevon Lewis. Keep in mind, Bevon Lewis is 1-3 in the UFC, does not look good, probably has been released. I'm not sure if it's been officially made yet, but had a bad run with the promotion, doesn't look elite. Winning that fight, and that was a good get back in the win column, make it 2 in a row, keep the train rolling. But it was Bevon Lewis, just grain of salt, just keep it in mind, right? Then that Roman Dolidze fight, agreed. Now I bet Giles, and a big part of the narrative on betting Giles was that Roman Dolidze has no ring IQ. Like, he does this all the time. You talk about he dropped back on the ankle lock and blows around from him. Absolutely. But how many times have you seen him do that in fights? Looks over at the coach. Want me to submit him? If you're going to say that, then do submit him. But no. He just falls back into the leg, doesn't get the submission, and all of a sudden, finds himself fighting against the 8 ball. Again, he's similar to Michel Pereira. The skill's all there. Fundamentally, he's sound. He fights bad game plans. So Giles gets the win there, but it's a dicey situation. It's a close fight. And the big thing there is that Dolidze got a lot of reactionary takedowns on him. Like, Giles would try to he would try to land his hands. Mm-hmm. That's his path to victory here. And as he would come, Dolidze would just shoot right under and take him down. Yeah. So my worry with Dricus is that Dricus has got a very solid leg kick, and he will hit Giles' leg, and he will slow him down. This will cause Giles to be like similar to Ike Villanueva from 2 weeks back against Pacquiao. As that leg starts to get compromised, you're just like, screw it. You're getting desperate. I need to just make it happen. Close the pocket. As he closes the pocket, Dricus fishes for a takedown maybe. Now, the thing with Dricus, otherwise you'd be way higher on a guy like this because he is just action personified, big knockout power, got the submission, very, very entertaining, but he's super hittable himself, and he doesn't particularly wear punch all that well. No. So I could see him going out there and getting knocked the hell out as well. This would be a volatile situation for both guys. They're both capable of getting the finish. They're both capable of being finished. But I would hope with Dricus, the last time out, hadn't fought in a year. And the jump from KSW and the EFC, South African regional scene, the jump from that to the UFC is big.
Giles hasn't exactly been a finishing machine by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I took up Bevon Lewis, but that was late in the third.
Yeah, that's and give what Dricus you do against credit. Bevon Lewis is you wait until the third when he's all cooked and then finish him off.
And I'll give Dricus this. He actually, in victory, lost me a little bit of money against Marcus Perez because even though I bet him and even though he's a parlay piece, I really thought Marcus Perez is a very durable individual. At the very least, goofy, but durable.
Yeah, I had Dricus by decision as well. That one.
So did I.
I mean, I didn't see it coming.
No,
it's like, coming like
this
that.
guy's got some pow. So Giles, who's also a police officer, he's got a secondary career. He doesn't love to get hit. He doesn't love to engage. His cardio's not great. Like I would say that I like Dricus, but like again, I can see trying to label it a dog or pass situation. Both guys got a chance of coming out on top. You're not really getting an underdog in this spot. 118 versus Dricus versus that comeback on minus 106 on Giles, but. Giles he's a squeaker. He's squeaking these wins out. He's not looking overly impressive. Dricus could blow it up for himself fighting a stupid game plan, but he is capable of being impressive, putting it all together, potentially getting an inside the distance finish as well. So the way he fights, I'd want to say bet the under 2.5. But again, the official pick will be Dricus to Plessis.
We got Jennifer Maia taking on Jessica Evil Eye. Jennifer Maia minus 200 favorite. Jennifer Maia is a minus 200 favorite. Jessica Eye can be had for plus 162. Battle of the Jays. I mean, it seems based on what Maia did against Shevchenko, which is probably looked better than anybody at 125 pounds against Shevchenko, which isn't saying very much. Like it was a decent performance.
yeah. She
was a decent performance. She didn't get embarrassed. She didn't get she didn't end up. Not much of it's going to end up on the highlight reel. The Bubba O'Reilly highlight reel with Valentina Shevchenko. There's not much
takedown. Takedown.
But it's like I thought she looked pretty good in that spot, all things considered. Nobody looks good against Valentina. Jessica Eye, on the other hand, I haven't seen much to get excited about her in quite some time now. Obviously, she's on 2-fight losing streak, loser of 3 of her last 4. I mean, the Viviane Araujo fight, I'm not even so sure that she won that fight. It seems like Maia is like a little parlay piece here. I just don't know what to really match it up with. What do you got here?
Yeah, I don't know if I would want to parlay it because it's probably a risky proposition straight up on its own, but I would think Jennifer Maia as well. Jessica Eye, in my opinion, hasn't really looked all that good in her last number of fights. When she was fighting at 135, yeah, she was getting out wrestled by the best wrestlers of the division, whether it be, Sarah McMahon and Juliana Pena, or just girls that were a lot bigger than her. At 125, it was like, this is perfect. This is your chance. This is a weight class designed for you, and she should be able to go all the way to the top of it. But it was not a great go right from the get-go. I mean, she gets a split decision win over Caitlin Chukagian, a win over Jess Rose Clark, and a split decision win over Kalindra Faria. That's not a world title run. Unfortunately, in a division like 125, when you have a bit of a name, you're throttled into that situation. So this is what she wants. She wants a title fight. She gets Shevchenko. She gets torched. Head kick, knockout. Nasty knockout, 26 seconds into the second round. And honestly, I think that she's just been a lot different since then. The Viviane Arroyo fight, you mentioned the fact she did outstrike her. I will give her that, but she was taken down 2 times. The Cynthia Calvillo fight, she's taken down 4 times. She hits the scale at 126.3. That's 0.3 of a pound off the limit. That is a nasty indication of she is no longer able to make this weight class. When you're missing by a 0.3, you're giving up 20% of your purse. Jessica Eye is a former title challenger. She's a well-tenured veteran of the UFC roster. 20% of her purse actually means something. It's a good indication of she's outgrown this weight class. Mind you, she was fighting at 35 back in the day to begin with. So she comes back anyways. She fights Joanne Calderwood, loses that fight, doubled up on the striking numbers, taken down by Joanne Calderwood, which was a little bit curious. But she's also taken 2 submission underground matches against Amanda Lowen, who's so badass, man. Unbelievably badass. I will not falter for that one. And Ilia McFarlane, who's a former Bellator champion. And both times, she don't look all that good. She's definitely getting older. I mean, good. Like, yeah, I think she's a pretty gal. Don't get me wrong. I just mean, like, the performances. At 34, she had a bad fallout with her Gym Strong Style fight team in Ohio a while back. She's been in Vegas. She's gotten a little bit older. She's launched an OnlyFans. Mm-hmm. The results in the fight game are not speaking volumes. Again, at 34, it's a natural assumption that most athletes are on the back nine, so to speak, the tail end. In her case, she's showing it. We talked about Stephen Thompson earlier. He's 38 years old, but it's like the guy's a fine wine. Doesn't seem like she's going that route herself. Jennifer Maia, meanwhile, she's hungry, man. She's making improvements pretty much fight to fight. I didn't think she had a shot in hell against Shevchenko. Nobody thought she had a shot in hell against Shevchenko. Effectively, she was a plus 1,000 underdog against Valentina Shevchenko. But you could have got Valentina Shevchenko at minus 400 after the first round because it actually appeared like, she's really strong on top. Like, she's got a good top game. She's a BJJ black belt, shoot to box stylist, heavy with the leg kick, very plodding, flat-footed, moves forward. I think Jessica I will have the advantage striking because of the boxing edge. Snappier jab, probably beats her to the punch. The difference is I think Maia's going to keep coming forward, hopefully find her, hopefully press her up against the cage. And the key would be mixing those takedowns because Jennifer Maia on top is heavy hips. And like I mentioned, BJJ black belt. When you look at Jessica I, taken down by Calderwood, taken down 4 times by Calvillo, taken down twice by Arroyo, taken down twice by Valentina Shevchenko. Effectively, she's been taken down in the last 4 fights. Caitlin never really committed to any takedowns, right? So as much as she historically has good takedown defense, it's also at a career 57% in the UFC. Maia seems striker versus striker. The key would be flip the script and just go right to the grappling if you can. So keep the striking competitive. And even if it's a slight edge, Jessica I, 1 mixed in takedown per round for 2 of those 3 rounds, we're getting a 29-28. I think that's plausible. I think that's plausible as an outcome. So I would go with Jennifer Maia by decision. But I don't want to see this exclusively as a boxing match because I think Jessica I could give her all type of, she could fluster her, right? She could give her fit standing in a strictly boxing match because she's a little bit faster, maybe a little bit better hand speed. But Maia makes this a greasy grinding affair, gets a hold of her, mixes in those takedowns. I think she secures a decision.
We got Brad Tavares taking on Omari Akhmedov. Brad Tavares minus 177 favorite. Omari Akhmedov can be had for plus 142. I got a big bet on this one, Cody. Hammered a minus 159 Brad Tavares earlier this morning. I mean, just watching the tape, this guy's takedown defense is awesome. Like, I know that's what Omari's going to have to try to do in this fight. He's going to have to push him up the cage, and Omari mixes between the singles. Like, he transitions between the singles quite well. Like, against our ACJ for Tavares, ACJ tries to grab, like, the single leg, but, like, he's not really transitioning between, double, single, left single, right single. Like, he's not moving it around. Omari's going to step up that game. It's going to be more of a test of the takedown defense for Brad Tavares. But the takedown defense, you go throughout most of his career. Like, Yoel Romero took him down 7 times. I mean, Elias Theodorou somehow took him down 3 times. But other than that, it's just like he just doesn't get taken down. I know he had, like, reconstructive knee surgery, but last time out against ACJ, that takedown defense looked good on the feet. I think he looks, he's going to be miles apart from Omari Akhmedov. The one question mark with Brad Tavares is the chin is a little bit questionable. It has been cracked. Omari Akhmedov, just not that type of fighter. Like, you go and look at the Breeze fight. It's just like there wasn't really much going on the feet there. Tom Breeze really kind of gives most of it up in round 1 by, like, by hunting for a guillotine with Akhmedov. Gives up most of that round, kind of fights back at the end of round 1 and then gets finished in round 2. The path to victory for Akhmedov is landing some crazy overhand right, but it's just like he just isn't that guy. He hasn't done that so much that I'm too concerned about that. And frankly, you go and look at Omari Akhmedov against Chris Weidman. What happens in that fight? He gets taken down in round 1 or controlled against the cage a whole bunch. Round 2, he wins that round. He does a pretty good job. He's able to flip the script, take down Chris Weidman. Round 3, he's cooked. He's tired. Brad Tavares, not necessarily a finisher. So on top of my minus 159 that I took, I think the minus 177 is still fine. And I prefer Brad Tavares as a play over Jennifer Maia, especially after everything that you said there. I don't think Jennifer Maia is any more safe than Brad Tavares. I took Brad Tavares, round 3, not exactly known as a finisher, but Omari gets a little bit cooked, and if he's fishing for takedowns and those takedowns aren't working, I took Brad Tavares, round 3 at DraftKings Sportsbook. I believe it is 12-1. We're up here in Canada. Hopefully we'll have DraftKings Sportsbook pretty soon, but yes. Sorry, yeah. I can't find it right now. Anyway, I have a 16-1 on Brad Tavares round 3. Most of the money, a considerable amount more of the money is on the minus 159, but we're going streaking if he wins in round 3 by finish. Obviously, I think that Brad Tavares by decision is the more likely outcome, but we've seen enough from Omari Akhmedov that if the pace is a little bit fast, if he's struggling for those takedowns, he's getting a little bit gassed. Round 3 could be a bit of a train wreck, and I'm just hoping that it's the right night for Brad Tavares to capitalize and get a third round finish. What's your take here?
I'm going to agree with you. So if fight gets announced, well, at least when I first saw the line, I said, geez, plus money on Omari Akhmedov, like decent plus money on Omari Akhmedov. I'm going to take a floater on that. Well, yeah, I probably got the wrestling advantage. You talked about the fact that Brad Tavares has good takedown defense, but yeah, he did get up those 7 takedowns with Yoel Romero, 3 takedowns by Elias Theodorou. That's a bad look. Yeah, he's getting taken down by Omari Akhmedov. That's going to be a problem. Does he have a chin issue? Maybe. Doesn't really fight all that often. And he fights Izzy Adesanya. He takes a year and a half off, then loses to Shabazian. Then he took almost 2 years off, came back and fight Antonio Carlos Jr. Like, is this a guy for a plus money Akhmedov? I don't mind it, but yeah, that's why it's all about, you got to watch the footage. You got to go back. You got to look at the fine nuances of it. And yeah, I think Brad Tavares, this is a good fight for him for sure. As you mentioned with Akhmedov, like his style is not land that big right hit. He hasn't knocked out an opponent in 8 years, right? And that was his UFC debut against Hermani Perpetuo. And if you remember, Thiago Perpetuo. If you remember that fight, Perpetuo has him rocked, man. Like Akhmedov is hurt. And as the Brazilian runs in to put the finishing touches on him, he just wangs him with a right hand and just folds him over. It was like, oh my God, what a comeback win. He also blew out Brian Ebersol's knee, and that's technically a TKO victory. But outside of that, like the power's not quite there. So getting Brad Tavares' respect in the striking department, yeah, maybe not quite going to be there. I mean, the guy did go the full distance with Israel Adesanya. Like, he is a good striker when he's at his best. Is he an elite striker? No, but against non-elite strikers, he's going to shine through and look good against them. He did exactly that his last time out. But again, when you look at Omari Akhmedov, man, he goes out there, he bullies these guys to the ground, he gets that clinch, right? With Brad Tavares, okay, yeah, maybe you're going to be able to bully him. So you start looking at those fights. Well, Yoel Romero, first and foremost, he's Olympic silver medalist, genetic freak athlete. If he wants you to get down, you're going down. The fact that Brad works his way back up a lot of those times, I mean, Yoel has to keep sticking on to him and taking him down. I thought that was fairly impressive. For a Hawaiian fighter, he's been full-time out of Extreme Couture for a long time. He's been a long time working with Ray Sefo on his striking, working with his, just a plethora of some of the best guys in the world, Robert Drysdale. He's always been working on these elements to his game. You've just never really seen him put it all together. The Elias Theodorou fight. So again, if you look by the numbers, he's taken down 3 times. If you watch the fight, none of those are takedowns. Because he hits the ground for 1 second? Like, with no control is not a real takedown. And so sure enough, he just gets back up and he wins that fight. A little bit closer than you'd like against a guy like Elias Theodorou, but I thought for sure he got the decision. We roll on. The key here now is those fights are in the past, right? It's that Antonio Carlos Jr. fight. Carlos Jr. is now fighting in the PFL tournament where he looks to probably be one of the tournament favorites, and he's fighting at 205 pounds. He's a massive man with like an 80-inch reach to boot, strong, physical, big guy. And he was deep on some of those shots, man. He had a deep bite on a few of those and just couldn't get him down. And when he would briefly get him down, it's like, no, Brad Tavares is right back up again. And he makes you work and he tires you out. ACJ's got questionable cardio, but he's a power grappler type guy with that long reach. Omari Akhmedov's not really too far from that. He's a short, stocky, power grappler with questionable cardio. It should actually be a very similar type game plan. Brad Tavares will win the striking exchanges. Omari Akhmedov will try to close the distance, get a hold of him, and he will work like a son of a bitch to get him down. The problem is that he's going to overexert himself trying for these takedowns, that even if he briefly gets him down to a knee for a moment or two, it's not going to be enough. The risk reward is not going to be there. I used all of this energy to pop him onto a knee for 3 seconds. He separates, lands 2 shots. The judges are giving it. They don't care about all the energy you just exerted. And I think with Akhmedov, not the biggest middleweight going to begin with, he muscles a lot of these techniques. And it'll work against Tom Breeze because he's a breakable guy. It'll work on some of these guys that you can mentally break. With Brad, it's like, you better knock him out, man. You don't want to try to grind on him for 15 minutes because he'll stay in the fight. You don't want him standing into the fight. He is 33. He's a little bit older. He just snapped a 2-fight losing streak in which he didn't look particularly good in either of those 2 fights. Is it a guy that we want to jump in with a ton of confidence? But if we're just going to base it on the last fight, he looked extremely confident, extremely, like a very good, adequate skill set. And it did look like he was coming to his own, like he was making improvements, like he's ready to show some of this off. And when you're managed by Ali Abdelaziz, you tend to get some of these better matchups. And this is what I would hope would be the case here. Get Brad back going. 1 fight winning streak. Let's turn into a 2. Let's turn into a 3. Let's get him some more meaningful fights. This would be a good start because Akhmedov's got a name. So I would go Brad Tavares. I would go Brad Tavares by decision. The third round prop, yeah, that's live too. But like Akhmedov is pretty tough Dagestani fighter. Like he's stubborn.
He slows to a halt though. That's
does
really
he ever?
Right.
Does he
12 to 1. Brad Tavares round 3. Come get rich.
That's not a terrible price. It's live.
I think it's live. I mean, Brad isn't exactly a potent finisher, but if the fight breaks the right way, Omari's really going to be struggling once we get to round 3. And Brad's cardio typically holds up. I think it's live. I think it's more live. What was the other? I had Max Griffin by sub earlier in the night. This is the prop that I think is definitely a more likely outcome. All right, we got Zhalgas Zhumaglov taking on Jerome Rivera. Zhalgas minus 345. Jerome plus 260. I'm going to go really, really quickly through my notes that I've got on this one. Rivera, what I've really seen on tape that he really seems to struggle with, he doesn't defend his face when he throws kicks. That's why he got iced by Odi Osborne in round 1. It was like 24 seconds into the fight. He throws a kick, and then his hands are down at his waist, and the counter just ices him. Same thing happened Tyson Nam. He throws a kick there, gets iced against the cage. Like that's a big hole in his game. Zhalgas is not a finisher by any stretch of the imagination. We haven't seen him finish in quite some time. I think his last finish was against Artur Bagatinov. Is that Ali Bag's brother or something? I know it was on the regional scene.
I don't think so. It is
no,
Russia.
It's Russia.
It's his cousin.
There's a lot of Bagatinovs out in Russia there. But
he did beat Ali though.
Rather than Zhalgas by decision, I think that's like everyone's gonna pick Zhalgas by decision. That seems to be the most likely outcome for this fight. I don't hate in Zhalgas's fights. I saw a bit of an overhand right in a couple of his fights here in the UFC. The one against Amir Albazi throws an overhand right, and I feel like if he lands that same one on Jerome Rivera after Jerome's trying to throw some leg kicks or span some other kicks, he could get him. And plus 450, Zhalgas by KO. I haven't betted it yet. I wanted to talk to you. And I know that I always come in here with all these big, huge plus money props, and then you poo-poo on them. But I prefer that line to what's currently getting offered in the prop market. I'm trying to load up right now what is actually getting. Why don't you take it away here? I'll tell you what the decision prop is in a second.
Yeah, again, I don't think you're far off. We both got Zhalgas. We're both in agreement that he's probably a much more skilled guy than an 0-2 UFC record would suggest. And yeah, when he was on the regional scene, he was out there beating some credible guys and fighting some high-level MMA. I will admit he does have one of the bigger robberies you'll ever see in your life over Tagir Ulanbekov. Where it's like, there's no way in any part of the world other than Kazakhstan you win that fight. None. Just so happens the fight's in Kazakhstan. And so he's gifted a decision. But Tagir's a beast in my opinion. Ali Bagatinov is a beast in everyone's opinion. Guy fought, he was on EPO when he fought Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, but he's still one of the top flyweights of all time, really. I mean, he wins over Bagatinov, Tyson Nam, Tagir Ulanbekov. You call that a win? That's huge, man. You're coming into the UFC with all that experience. Like, this is big. They give him Rolian Paiva, who's everybody's darling. He actually debuts, even though he's the Fight Night's global champion, coming off some credible victories. He's a plus 130 underdog to Rolian Paiva. I back him. I was sure he won the fight, man. I don't know why they scored it for Paiva, but they scored it for Paiva. It was a bum decision. Don't worry, this guy will get it back the next time. Unfortunately, the next time they give him Albazi. And Amir Albazi's legit, man. Like, this is a top Swedish flyweight prospect. The guy's got sharp hands, great BJJ, strong physical. And the problem with Zhalgas is that he's a very slow starter. Almost always he takes a long time to get going, and then he gets winging these ugly hooks over the top where it's like, what is he doing? But he swings from the hip side. He's strong. He's physical. He's got a bad taste in his mouth after these 2 decision losses. Maybe he goes and he pushes that action to get that finish. But I mean, traditionally speaking, he's definitely more of a decision guy. I don't hate the Zhalgas by KO. I don't hate it at all. But I think logically speaking, logic would dictate he probably just smothers him up for another decision. Now, Jerome Rivera has had a catastrophic run. I mean, Zhalgas is 0-2, but you can make some positive points for him. Like Rivera, you don't get that. You go back and you watch that Contender Series fight with Luis Rodriguez. There's a strong argument he doesn't win that fight, man. And in fact, he doesn't get a contract, I don't believe, but they bring him in as a short notice replacement for Tyson Nam down the road. So right off the get-go, the Contender Series fight doesn't look good. The Tyson Nam fight, I thought he won the first round. I thought he did good in the first round. The second round, he throws a naked kick. He gets countered. Tyson Nam's got a way of doing that to guys. He's got, fight-ending power for 125 pounds. But the next one, Francisco Rivera, it's Davidson's brother. Maybe can bang. I don't know. We don't really know if he can bang. We assume he can bang. He's Davidson's brother, and he just goes out there and takes Jerome Rivera down at will and just grounds him. Like that wasn't inspiring at all. So now he's 0-2 in the UFC. You give him another one against Odie Osborne. And, Odie's coming off the loss to Brian Kelleher. Now people are saying, well, this is a better spot for Jerome Rivera, and he gets iced in 26 seconds.
Throwing a kick, effectively not defending his face, iced. Like that's kind of the general trend I see.
UFC. Yeah, dude, he's 0-3 in the UFC. He should have lost that Contender Series fight, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinions. His other two big spots in his career, Brendan Royval, in which he dislocates his elbow 40 seconds into the fight, and the fight with Roberto Sanchez, where he's easily outclassed and submitted in the first. Roberto Sanchez would go on to the UFC. I think he went 1-1, maybe not even, and just retired. Was more of a jiu-jitsu guy, not so much an MMA guy, but it's like when he stepped up to these bigger spots, effectively the only two UFC veterans he'd fought on the regional scene, both beat him, right? And then when he comes to the UFC, he goes 0-3, and his one fight of the Contender Series was a debatable that he probably should have lost that fight. He doesn't really step up to these bigger spots, I don't think. And, Zhalgas is a former world champion in Russia. He's fought some tough guys. He's got more experience. He's not going anywhere, so you're going to have to put together a proper 15 minutes. You're not going to take him down. I believe Jerome Rivera shows a 0% takedown accuracy. I don't even know that he's attempted a takedown, but he's not shooting takedowns. And the best path to Zhalgas is like, throw this guy in his back for a little bit, work him off the top. If you don't do that, he's going to back you up. He's going to throw more volume. He could sting you with some shots. He can make some takedowns of his own. But either way, I think Zhalgas does get the job done. This could be the end of the road for Jerome Rivera.
Yeah, Zhalgas by decisions minus 125, which means it's 55.6% of the time. I question Jerome Rivera's chin enough that I don't really want to get involved with that number. I mean, Zhalgas is so juiced at this point. It's another kind of fight that I want to try to find another angle, and I thought the knockout prop is something I'm going to have a little bit on it, but it's not a laser guided heat seeking missile by any stretch of the imagination. Got to bet on this next one though. Alan Akhmedov taking on Hu Yaozhang. Maybe it's a bit of like a degenerate play. You get so excited, you start doing a little bit of tape. We didn't have fights for a week. But, Hu Yaozhang, he's fought at heavyweight the first time out. Kind of gets bodied by Cyril Asker. Not a good look. Quite a long time ago. He was like 22 at the time, fighting a heavyweight. Just kind of looked a little bit flubby. Next time out, he takes on Rashad Coulter. The one thing I really took away from the Coulter fight is, man, this kid can take a punch. Like, Coulter is just teeing off on him. Just taking his best, and the kid just taking his best shots and delivering some stuff back. Like, he loses that fight as well, but the one saving grace, I suppose, for him is that I saw some durability from the kid. So a couple days ago, I took Hu Yaozhang plus 130, he's plus 115 at DraftKings Sportsbook right now. I think he should probably be the favorite, maybe a slight favorite, maybe minus 150 to be perfectly honest. I haven't seen much from Akhmedov to get excited about. He comes in, he doesn't really use straight shots. It's more like hooks, and it kind of feels like it's knockout or bust for him. Moving down to 185 for this fight, Yaozhang should be massive. He doesn't have very long arms, 72 inches. But I feel like Akhmedov's kind of knockout or bust, and Hu Yaozhang seems to have just some sort of mutant chin on him. I think there's going to be a lot of cage control for Hu Yaozhang, who's got a Greco-Roman style of wrestling. I mean, this is like I tweeted about it. It's like, this is the bottom of the barrel for UFC middleweight, 100%. Like, this is pink slip fight if I've ever seen a pink slip fight. You got an 8-2 guy who both of his losses are in the UFC, so who the hell knows who he was fighting on the regional scene versus somebody who's 3-2. It's not exactly a high level fight. So usually, I mean, it's the name of the show, and when I'm dealt with these really low level fights, it's usually a dog or pass situation. I'd probably line it at, honestly, Hulu Yozong, like -150. Like, I think he wins like it's like 60-40 type of split here. What's your take?
Well, see, that I disagree with, only because if you want to analyze this fight from, well, what have they done in their careers, then how could you not go with Alan Akhmedov? He's actually fought guys. He's actually got a little bit of, some solid experience under his belt. He's a Bellator veteran. He's got wins over Will Fleury and Ibrahim Manet. He went the distance with Krzysztof Jotko. That's all decent body of work stuff, right?
Horrible in the Jotko fight, though.
Terrible. He lands 6 strikes over the course of 15 minutes. He gets taken down 4 times. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But Jotko was a fringe 15 contender who had fought in some good guys. And he was coming off a knockout loss, so he wasn't looking to throw hands at Akhmedov. He was looking to just take him down, neutralize him. Fair. John Phillips knocks him out really before anything got going, so bad look for him, and now he's taken 2 years off. Also bad look for him. He had some decent wins for Bellator. He's got at least more experience. He seems to be a decent puncher, against who looked very hittable. Akhmedov probably going to be able to go out there and get his hands going. The difference for me, though, is that, who's just had more time to work on his craft. It's easy to shit on a guy when you go, man, he lost to Cyril Asker in his debut. Fair. So, one, he's fighting at heavyweight. You mentioned that. He's 2 weight classes up from what he'll be competing at on Saturday night. But to go from fighting a 2-3 guy in the Chinese regional scene, an 0-0 guy, and an 0-1 guy, to fighting in the UFC on the undercard of Kelvin Gastelum versus Michael Bisping, a named fight in China. I'm on the prelims. I'm 22 years old, no experience, taking on Cyril Asker. Well, even though Cyril Asker wasn't good, he was a judo brown belt. He was a BJJ purple belt. He had a way more experience. That's a bad fight, so he loses that. Fair enough. Then you got Rashad Coulter. Well, moves to 205, looks better. He's still only 22 years old. He's still taking on a former pro boxer who's a much bigger guy. And he loses the fight. But he had the spirit in that fight. He lands like 90 significant strikes of his own. He takes all of Coulter's best shots. And even though he's a punching bag for the large majority of it, he had that fighting spirit. Now, the UFC doesn't release this guy. He doesn't go back to the Chinese regional and pick up some wins. He doesn't go back to any regional scene and pick up any type of experience that we can see. But the UFC doesn't release him. So essentially, it's like, go back, get some experience, train in the gym. He goes to Tiger Muay Thai. Get yourself to the weight class you should be, 185. Now he's 26 years old. Now should have been rounding out his game. He's in better physical shape. He's got a picture 3 years more of experience. Good. Yeah, he's got 3 years of more experience. He's developed. He's going to be the bigger guy, despite having a short reach on him. He's going to be the bigger guy. It suggests from him taking all of Coulter's punches, it would suggest that he's going to take Akhmedov's punches. And when he returns fire, Akhmedov's going to crumple over. Mm-hmm. But last but not least, Nick Negumereanu. Fuck, that guy looked awful, right? And he takes 3 years off. He's a joke. He comes back. Dude made a lot of improvements. He's got a cast iron chin. His cardio held up. And man, he just kept going forward the whole time. Not that bad. Rick Glenn, okay? He's been off for 3 years. He had hip surgery. He's a plumber in Iowa now. Shit, he goes out there and he sleeps Joaquim Silva in 30 seconds. Claudio Puelles, that kid from Peru. My God, that guy was awful. Takes 2.5 years off. Comes back against Jordan Leavitt, still looks awful, and wins the fight. Zhalgas Danho, my God, that guy was awful. Takes 3 years off, comes back, sleeps Jorgen De Castro. To a lesser extent, Steven Peterson took 2.5 years off, came back and beat Chase Hooper. Kendi Njoku took 2 years off, came back for that Carlos Ulberg fight. All I'm getting at with all these comparisons is you can be really bad or you can look really bad and you can take 2-3 years off. What you come back is, if you're young, different version. Let's say you and I went and played tennis tomorrow, right? And I slight edge beat you. And then for the next 3 years, I did not see you. And all you did was play tennis every day for 3 years. You're not going to the French Open. You're not going to Wimbledon. But would you absolutely destroy my life in a tennis match? No doubt about it. So we can,
unless you're
so
really
we can
good
watch
at
the
tennis,
footage.
I don't know about it.
Unless I was also practicing tennis. So by the way, in this case, yes, his opponent, Alan Akhmedov, has also been working on his craft over the last 2.5 years. I think the difference is you knew what you're getting from Alan. You know what his skill set is. You know where his potential's at. You know what he does well and what he doesn't do well. You have a more refined version of him. Him coming back 2 years later, hey, could change. He's 33. He's training out of Italy. I don't know that he's jumped up any type of next level, really, to be honest.
Both of these guys have had 2-year layoffs, right? So
yeah, with who it's like, well, he's had longer than 2 years, isn't it?
Yeah, they're both like around
He fought
like 2.5 years, isn't it? Akhmedov's last fight was September 28th, 2019. And who his last
this
fight?
This kid's November 2018.
Okay,
right?
so
he's
even
coming
longer,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in his 2.5 years, but he's coming up just shy of a 3-year-long layoff. He leaves the sport. He leaves the sport as a 23-year-old. He comes back as a 26-year-old. To me, that makes a wealth of difference. We've talked about all these other examples. People that went away, they did not look good at all. They spent 2 to 3 years strictly honing their crafts. All those people I mentioned, by the way, Zhalgas Danho, Niga Mariano, Rick Glenn, Claudio Puelles, none of them got experience and came back as better versions. They didn't do nothing. They just trained and they improved and they got better and their bodies healed up and they came back as much better. So it's a lot of narrative, I will admit, but this is a shit show of a fight and we're going to get plus money on the Chinese guy. So that's what we're going with. We're going with Wu. We're going with who? Sorry. Who?
Who's on first?
He's got to go and do something here because certainly his pro fighting career is probably on the line. But yeah, I think the UFC knows what they're doing, man. They say, geez, we sent this guy away. We didn't cut him. We sent him away. We said improve. And when your coaching staff feels that you're ready and you show us you're ready, we will bring you back. We want to go to that Chinese market. There's a huge demographic there. There's a lot of fight fans. There's a lot of martial art fans. We would love to break in that market. And we're going to need a lot of stars. We need more than just Jingliang Li. We need more than just, they did have a world champion. I'll give them that. But, she lost the belt. We need more people from the roster. So they keep him, to bring him back. Now it's his second start. Let's forget about the past. Let's have we'll hit reset, clean go of it. Who do you give him? Well, you want to give him a winnable fight. If I told you, give me the lowest guy on the roster, it would be Alan Akhmedov. He was not seen to be much when he signed with the promotion. He fanned out after an 0-2. He's been off for 2 years. Oh, and last but not least, he picked up 2 quality wins for Bellator, and they opted not to sign him, right? So that kind of does tell you everything you need to know. They weren't high up on him, even though who is not great. Yeah, well, you're right. Quality wins is a bit of a stretch. However, Will Fleury was decent, man. He was 4-0 at the time. He's an SBG Ireland guy, and he was touted as one of these Liam Gallaghers or one of these Conor McGregors, or, one of these. Why did I say Liam Gallagher? He's the guy from Oasis. James Gallagher. Like he was perceived as being a good Irish prospect, and then he got blown through an Akhmedov, and then Ibrahim Mane fight. Mane tough enough, but it's 12 seconds. He's got big power.
Yeah.
When he got hit by John Phillips's big power, he crumpled over. So if you've got the bang, but you don't got no durability, yeah, exactly.
Give me the better chin,
dude,
plus money
in
in this type of spot. That's really what it comes down to. I don't think that Hu Yaozhang is taking over the game by any stretch of the imagination, but I trust in the improvements. I saw a picture. Legs the Capper posted it out there. I don't know what Instagram account he found it on, but he was looking quite trim at 185 pounds. So 6'3", he should be huge. Hopefully he makes weight. I'm gonna steal a segment real quickly. Obviously, DraftKings is the sponsor of this program. DraftKings Sports, but I don't have to talk. I was gonna just do a play the best plays lineup for DraftKings. All right. So, both of us picked Dustin Poirier. We're locking him in at $8,100. Correct, Cody?
Yeah, that's a good price. That's a great salary.
He's becoming the favorite. We think he should be the favorite. 100 points, very, very likely for him if he lands the type of volume. What did he land last time out against him? landed. Well, I mean, it's not.
Well, he got a second round knockout. So
Second round knockout. He did just fine for himself. Let's put our boy Who in there, who is $7,200. Super cheap. That leaves us $8,600 on DraftKings. Anybody you think is like just a must play kind of guy on DraftKings this week?
Yeah, well, obviously O'Malley's going to be on everybody's roster. So if you can fade him, or if he doesn't get a first round knockout, let's say, we might be able to avoid that spot. Michel Pereira versus Niko Price, you're going to want one side or the other. You kind of like Pereira, I kind of like Price, but that one's probably going to be pretty violent. Ilia Topuria, he's a little expensive this week, but
we don't have to go through every single one. Who are we locking?
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Like, who are the plays?
Okay, if we're going for people,
who is the best play that we're trying to win all of the bucks, and it's just like,
we're playing
gotta
GPP.
have this guy.
Okay, we're playing GPP. We got to have Dricus to Plessis. I mean, the guy goes for it. He's got big power. He could finish with the KO. He could finish with the submission as well. I would say that you're probably going to want some Tuivasa on there and hope that Greg Hardy's going to gas out after the second round. He's going to put the final touches on him.
All right, now we've got Poirier, Zhang, Duplessis, Tuivasa. We still got 9,000, and like we can afford O'Malley if we want to go up there at this point.
You know what? The options seem endless this week. There's actually a couple decent ones that you can make a very strong argument for. And the SGPP, you got to take a little bit of risk.
You'd have like a Tavares or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Or you could go the route of a Topuria and still have enough for Pereira if you liked him that way. So, yeah, without giving a full lineup out, our core plays, we'll call it then. Top 4 plays, we got Poirier, Zhang, Duplessis, and Tuivasa as DraftKings plays. I think that seems easy enough, right?
Yeah, also check out Brett Apley's work. I mean, he always gives an excellent DK breakdown as well. So if you want a little more in-depth, we just kind of glossed over it very quickly. But yeah, I'd say check out his stuff for sure.
All right, we're just about out of time here. But before we go, hit him with the PRP.
Okay, we are going with Dustin Poirier, Stephen Thompson, Tai Tuivasa. Check out that after the first round prop for sure. In fact, check out the Dustin Poirier after first round, like if you're live betting. We're going to go with Yana Kunitskaya. That's going to be dog number 1. Sean O'Malley, Max Griffin, preferably by decision. Niko Price is going to be dog number 2. Ilia Topuria, Dricus to Plessis, Jennifer Maia, Brad Tavares, Zhalgas Zhumaglov, and Zhang, dog number 3. So yeah, I don't know if this is a card that's really screaming big underdogs. I'm sure that in the sport of MMA, anything can happen. A couple of them might cash through, but I'm just going to keep it simple. Go with those 3 that I like. As for the most part, just try to negate as much of the damage that we could run into. Not have a Raoni Barcelos kill me on my top ticket this week. But yeah, just hopefully go with some of the safer side of things. And yeah, we'll talk about props, I guess, later on in the week. But this is a decent card to attack from a prop standpoint as well. Super happy to have UFC back. Super happy to have one of these big mega shows where people can get excited for it and just kind of, I love when there's added viewership, not for myself personally, but just like I love when people who don't usually watch fights watch it for the first time. And maybe for whatever reason, 1 or 2% of those people say, dude, this is super cool. I'll watch this again. The amount of people that hit me up in my DMs or I talk to on Twitter, and a lot of them, I'll be like, oh, well, what got you into fighting? How long have you been watching fighting for? The amount of people that can correlate it with a Conor McGregor fight, whether it was the first Diaz fight or the second Diaz fight, or when he beat Jose Aldo, the amount of people that correlate them getting into the sport because of Conor, love or hate the guy, he has done a lot for the sport. And so whenever he fights, it's a huge moment, huge time. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Do I think he's going to win this one? No, I'm going with Dustin Poirier. But part of me, if Conor goes out there, vintage form, sleeps him, talks some shit, who would be mad about that? It's good for the game. It's good for business. It'd be bad for a one-night ticket. Yes, get it. But as a whole, this is why we do it, right? He is the big tent type fighter. You put the big tent around him because it's a theatrical show. So I'm all for it, my friend. I cannot wait for Saturday.
Yeah, and if you want to hear people tell you, or at least one person tell you to bet Conor McGregor, tune in to the Pat Mayo Experience, and Pat will have Aaron Bronstetter on the show, and Pat will tell you to bet Conor McGregor in this fight. But that's it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed this show. For Cody and Pat, I'm Paul saying goodbye and good luck.